Incoming transmission.
Good evening, everybody on the USS Cuchulainn. It's 2021, and hi, John. Welcome to 2021. First of all, before we start, I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. As you know, this is the first XO Live chat that I've done in a while, and it's the first, obviously, this year. And over the last couple of months, we have been watching some amazing sci-fi in Discovery and The Mandalorian, and shortly after that, The Expanse. The Expanse is still showing at the moment, so when that finishes, I would hope to do a chat on that as well. But for now, both The Mandalorian and Discovery have just finished their third and second seasons. So I think it's high time we actually had a nice old chat about both of those shows. So, John, which show would you like to go for first?
Oh, let's do Discovery.
Oh, let's do Discovery, right, okay. As usual, guys, if you want to make a comment, just put it in the comments there. If anybody wants to join us on the live chat, you're welcome to do so. Let us know, we'll send you an invite, and we'll see where we go from there. So, overall impressions. Before we go into detail, overall impressions.
Are you asking, or do you want to make some statements?
Oh, hang on. Yeah, no, absolutely. Just my computer's just done something funny there. 1 second.
I'll play with my lighting here. Well, okay. Well, my overall impressions. Oh, that's very white. That's very blue. That's warm enough.
Ah, there we go.
That's a bit more real, isn't it? Instead of an orange light. Anyway. Impressions for me. As usual, with these things, I'll watch it. I'll always watch stuff. There's a lot of sci-fi that I will tend to watch, whether it's good or bad. I'll always give a pilot a chance. And then sometimes, I'll watch a pilot and go, yeah, I'm not going to watch any more of that. Which I've done with some of the fantasy stuff that is up on Netflix. There's some fantasy stuff up there that I haven't. I'm like, I've watched the pilot and went no. So I'm just pulling up my I'm pulling up my own feed here so we can see comments and the like. Hopefully
they're doing the same thing.
But yeah, it's I think. It's still unlike yourself, as we usually comment between the two of us. It's not my favorite show. There's hello, good evening, Facebook user who doesn't trust StreamYard. Thanks for joining us. It's good to have you along. Yeah,
hey guys.
I've got there's so many things I disliked about the thing. I try and I try and look at the best of things, especially when I complain about stuff. There's certain aspects to Discovery that I just really dislike, but even though I dislike them, I don't begrudge that person their job, if you know what I mean. Like, as somebody who works in the media myself, I'm not going to begrudge someone a job just because they have a difference of opinion to me, that they're going a different design route that I particularly don't like aesthetically, which is most of the time what I dislike about Discovery. It really, it's a lot of the aesthetic. It's the same since the pilot, since season 1. It's just a lot of the aesthetics and the design choices that they've made. Overall, I've just disliked quite a lot from the Klingons onwards. There's stuff that they have done quite nicely. I think, there's some of the ships have been nice, especially in the Battle of the Binary Stars. But I won't go into too much detail. There's also directions that they've gone with in this particular season, where okay, you've gone down that. Oh, you're still there, and you're continuing on with it, and we've another couple of episodes of this. All right, well, that's so it's there tends to be a time when I'm like, we're still going down that road. Okay, what's going on Instagram?
Well, no, for me, I absolutely loved it from the word go, as you know. So we've had some interesting conversations back and forth regarding Discovery. both with ourselves and with Jerry O'Brien on his radio show, and with Robbie. You know, I don't know. Like for me, you know, Trek when Enterprise ended, there was a certain fatigue to it. You know, and they needed to do something different, and they needed to change the format. I feel, and certainly the episodic style of the previous shows. Not sure that would work today, although I am looking forward to seeing what they do with that on Strange New Worlds. But with Discovery, they went for the season-long storyline, and they went for a darker tone, which, as you know, I kind of like the darker tone sci-fi anyway. So I kind of gravitated towards it straight away. But I liked the visuals, I liked the characters, and I liked the ship, especially after its refit now in the third season. But yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So for this third season, I say it was probably my favorite season, and I didn't think it would be because I loved season 2, and in fact season 1 was actually my favorite because it was a little bit darker. I thought they lightened it a little bit in season 2, maybe a little bit too much. But with season 3, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the storyline, and some of the things that I've seen some people have issues with are part of what I enjoyed most, so it'll be interesting to explore that. So
let's go with that then. What have other people disliked that you have liked, and let's see if I agree with them or you.
Now that the show has ended, one of the biggest complaints I've seen is, oh my God, the burn. It was caused by a Kelpian on a planet because his DNA had sort of mixed with dilithium. It wasn't a big bad. It wasn't a big, huge conspiracy against the Federation. And people were sort of expecting that. They're kind of almost like it's disappointed it wasn't the Borg, or it wasn't the Dominion, or it wasn't some big bad that had caused the collapse of the Federation and the burn.
I didn't.
I thought it was very. I like the fact that I felt it was really Trek turnaround. It was a random event. You know, it wasn't caused by any big bad, but the results of something was galaxy expanding, like, and it means, like, you know, that when they move to season 4, they're not looking for a big bad. You know, the season 4 looks like it's going to be about re-establishing the Federation, and obviously they're going to come up against obstacles, and it'll be interesting to see what that is. But I actually liked the direction they went with the burn, although I know a lot of people didn't.
I didn't mind that. I mean, that as an overall kind of here's the MacGuffin that we've created to reduce the power of Starfleet, as Starfleet should have grown over like 900 years. You know, here's the stumbling block that we've created so that they're not, you know, the first ones from Babylon 5. They're not just all super powerful, and the entire galaxy isn't the Federation at this stage. You know, like the hegemony of the Federation. By this time, they should have, you know, at least taken over a few quadrants. You know, alpha, like the Federation spans the midsection of the Alpha and Beta quadrants. You know, and by this time they should have explored out to the Gamma and Delta. So this was I think I was happy enough with this as a way of, you know, reducing the size and splitting up things, and it's you know, the Federation has to come back together, and Discovery is going to be the part of rebuilding. That storyline didn't bother me at all. I wasn't troubled with that at all. I was quite pleased when they finally got to. Alan O'Shea says he hasn't watched it. Al, why are you here if you haven't watched it? I mean, this is a story.
Yeah. And who else have we got here? Antoinette, hi. How are you doing? Jerry, Andy. Yeah, you got Barry. How you doing, guys? Nicola.
Hello.
Eugene, Andy, and Paul Morrison. Hey, Paul. How you doing? Yeah, welcome, guys. If you have any particular comments or thoughts on the show, you know, put it up there and let us know what you think, and we'll see where we can go with that. Okay, so that didn't particularly bother you then?
No.
It's one of those complaints I've seen since the finale was shown, you know?
It's yeah, I had no problem with it at all. I was just like, okay, because they have to figure out something for an overall MacGuffin. I thought that Osira, since she became the big bad, you know, I thought it very strange that. Well, let me go back a sec to. I thought Odette Fair. I thought he was great. I was worried at the start when we first came into the Federation that they're going to make the Federation the big bad. You know, here's the Federation, and it's split up, and they're completely militaristic now, and you know, we're not going to be the Starfleet of old. This is going to be the super dark Federation, and they're going to be very close to the Terrans. That was my worry because of the darkness of Discovery. That's the direction that they were going to go, and Odette first, the Admiral, was going to be a super hard ass, and you know, his opinions were going to be you know, it was going to be a kind of Commander Kane coming into classic Galactica type of thing, and they're going to have to fight against the Federation before they can get past that. But the fights that they had with the Federation, and I thought Odette again came in like Anson Mount in season 2 and did a great job. I was actually, all right, okay, yeah, he's an Admiral. He has to be a hard ass when he needs to be, but he also has lighter tones. He's got a family that he hasn't seen. You know, it's when Osira comes in and offers this treaty, you know, and the treaty seems to be quite good. You're like, okay, she's making an awful lot of concessions. I thought that whole sequence was very confusing. It was like it was very hard to figure out where are they going with this, because this treaty looks to be very good. How are they going to get her out of this and keep her being this nasty person that she's supposed to be?
Yeah.
You know, I'd have to sit down and rewatch that. It didn't really, it made me kind of not sit on the edge of my seat, but it made me sit there and kind of going, I'm confused. What's happening? You know, is he now entertaining this? He's entertaining this very quickly.
Yeah.
And you know, even though they had the hollow there that was the you know, lie detector and whatever, and that and the other, and with him there as a lie detector, she seemed to be telling the truth, and this is the new direction that they want the chain to go. And I was like, okay. And then they went straight, you know, they kind of went to modernistic terminology of, well, you know, the chain is a capitalist society. When the Federation has to acknowledge that it needs to retake this ideology and merge into, because all of our planets are capitalist planets. So if the Federation wants to expand again and get its people back, it has to adopt, you know, capitalism again and reduce its socialistic ideals. So, you know, so it's like, okay, they're trying to put a bit of Star Trek argument in there, and that's, you know, this old classic Trek type of thing, going for let's talk about a topical issue using a non-topical issue, you know, a science fiction avenue. So I saw that was in there, and they were trying to explore that, but then they were trying to shoehorn that into the Michael Burnham show, which I thought, you know, didn't quite work. It wasn't quite the balance that you'd be used to. There's other stuff. I mean,
that you're talking about there, I think did a great job of establishing just where Vance was coming from. You know, he took the time to have the negotiation. He read the treaty that Osira presented to him and said, there's good points to this. Maybe it can be done, but not with you in charge. And like, you know, and even if it means he loses this and doesn't get the peace, he wasn't going to bend his principles to say, okay, we'll do this and we'll let you stay in charge just for the sake of peace on its own. So it kind of, I think, established Vance as someone who was struggling with the fact that he's got to deal with so much, but still sticking to the principles that he saw. And I think that was enhanced and strengthened with him, with the arrival of Discovery and the conversations he had with Saru and with Burnham over, you know, the course of the show. But the one thing that a lot of people said, and thankfully it's not, is like, great, he's not a bad admiral. He's not evil. You know, it's been kind of like a Trek trope for the last while for every admiral every now and then to be evil.
Admiralty and insurrection. And,
but he turned out to be one of the good guys, and it'll be very interesting to see. There's been a couple of comments here and questions. So,
well, I like Joanna, just because it's on topic of what we're saying. Joanne Alexander's comment here, I'll just put it up.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm on the same page, because in their next comment she actually agrees with me as well. But it was like there was two different writing groups couldn't get together to decide what the outcome of the treaty. I think you're getting close to the feeling. You're putting words to the kind of feeling, excuse me, that I had when I was actually watching those scenes. I was like, okay, I'm quite happy that you've got me in the position of I'm not able to predict where this is going. But also, it seems, have you decided on what the character of Osira really is here? You know, is she going to change her complete outlook on life to get this treaty across, or is this a ploy? And that question really didn't get answered before the character ended. So I felt that you know, maybe that was a storyline that they wanted to explore, and then they had time constraints and got a cut. It didn't have enough time to explore that. And as Anthony Raythorn, or who was it say? Who's this Facebook user? Barry Clark is saying that Osira killed off by burning too easily. You know, so maybe that's right. Maybe she was killed off a bit too easily, because that character could have been explored as to because if they create a character like Osira with giant ship and the control over the chain, and you think that she's the big bad and she runs the chain, but then once she has this scene with Odette Bear, she's talking about, you know, there's a council, and you know, they expand out with dialogue the size of the chain and all that. But then, you know, you're kind of like, okay, so are we talking about, is she negotiating for the chain, who we've only seen her? We haven't expanded. We have had no other, you know, we've had no day player actors coming in just to give a kind of a scene akin to Enterprise had. You know, we had the Xindi council meetings to kind of give you an idea. Well, this is what the Xindi are up to as a big organization versus here's what's going on in the Enterprise, and they're trying to fight that. It's almost like, you know, they were avoiding doing that, and we're going to concentrate with the big bad, which is Osira, and then we're going to let it do it all with dialogue. But because they did that, and they had so many other spectacles to deal with, that kind of got lost of, well, what is the chain? Are we introducing the chain and suddenly ending the idea of the chain?
Well, have they though? I mean, as you said, like she was one, but there's a council. Now, they did. The admiral did say that the chain had become disjointed after she had died, but they're still there, and you would imagine that perhaps they could be one of the obstacles in the fourth season as they try to re-establish the Federation now that they're able to mine the dilithium and use the Discovery to get it out there. You feel like, I mean, obviously there's going to be obstructions and issues that they're going to have to deal with as they try to rebuild the Federation. And quite possibly the chain is still going to be one of those that they will find themselves having to come up against.
Well, is the chain, yeah, so are they going to continue with the chain as being the big bad? Now, the chain is going to separate itself down into warlords. It's going to break down, like one of their big leaders is gone. It's going to start breaking down. You've already seen, in the VO at the end, they're already alluding to the fact that it's breaking down, and they're different star bases and different planets are going to return to the Federation. They've got the Trill back, the Navarre, the Vulcan Romulan alliance. They've returned, and then they're coming back to it. So is the chain going to be like the big shooty bad for season 4, or are they going to they'll obviously have to create some new arc storyline to fight against, have new characters to go against. I thought it was interesting when at the start of the show where they had the Orion Alliance, which is a very didn't really get explored enough in the classic series, where but it was explored in video games and books, where the Orion Syndicate, which they also touched on Deep Space Nine, the Orion Syndicate was always a thing. So they were always slavers and a dangerous organization in the classic series. They went more underground by the 24th century. So that seemed to, look, we're going to take the Orions and now we're going to bring them to the 31st century. We're going to explore that. But then they did that for a couple of episodes, and then they just went, well, they're not so much it's not the Orions anymore. This is now the chain. It's bigger, and the Orions are just part of it. So I don't know. To me, it seems very disjointed.
I would say part of it is the fact that, that this storyline is not done. The fact that Discovery is in the future now. That's a lot of what we're going to see over the next many seasons as it gets.
Should have been
season
there.
4. Well, season 4 is already well into production now, so it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. A couple of other questions. Anthony turned around and said he was delighted that it didn't end on a cliffhanger, which, yeah, it was nice to have a kind of conclusion to the season, particularly knowing that the 4th season was already in production. So, that's interesting. Jerry Lynch wanted to know, what was your opinion on Tilly as XO?
Oh, don't get me started.
That's one of those. That's one on the negative list there, is it?
Right. Well, for that one, I'm not going to I'm not going to diss Mary Weissman, the actress. I thought she did a stellar job. I thought she was fantastic. Once it was like, well, here's the role, she did a fantastic job as what she was written to do. Nothing whatsoever to do with Mary Weissman. She's just fantastic. And delighted for her that her husband was able to get a job out of it as well. Her husband,
a very interesting character. Was sorry to see him go.
Yeah, exactly. Why get rid of him? I mean, that was fantastic for a husband and wife couple to be able to do that. He was the for those of you who don't know, her husband was the Andorian, with the antenna that were cut off, the guy that they found in the prison camp. And he wasn't a bad actor. It wasn't anything negative with that. But the idea, it seemed to be the influence of the Kurtzman, Orky, J.J. Abrams 2009 era Star Trek ideals, where, to go back to that, where you had fresh out of the academy cadet and suddenly he's first officer, and by the end of the movie they give him the flagship, for the 2009 JJ stuff. And you're like, that was influenced by basically, well, it's Star Trek, by the end of the movie you have to have Captain Kirk. I would have preferred, and that's the difficulties of production. You don't know where the money's going to come. You don't know if there's another one. Just like currently, they don't know whether they'll get a 4th one or not. So you never know if you're going to get the next one. So obviously, in regards to a blockbuster movie, you give Kirk the captain's chair at the end of the movie. So then, at the end of the movie, you have Captain Kirk. But from a Starfleet point of view, or a kind of militaristic point of view, that annoyed the crap out of me. I would have liked to have seen a 3-movie thing where, and I've said it before, Kirk is a cadet, Bruce, what was his name? Bruce Greenwood is Pike, and Kirk's still first officer, and we do what we did in the first movie. But at the end of the first movie, Bruce is still captain, Pike is still captain, and then we go in, we start the second movie as they started the second movie. But then they kill off someone else, even Kirk's brother or something like that, instead of Pike, to be Kirk's reaction to being the way he is. I would have liked to, because you could still have Kirk running around doing planetary things, and Captain Pike up on the ship doing starship things, and you still have your adventure story. And then by the end of the second movie, you promote Kirk. He's now captain of the Enterprise, and Beyond continues on as Beyond was. It was literally, giving a cadet a ship at the end so quickly annoyed the crap out of me then. And it annoyed me with Tilly. She struggles with the program, the command program. That's great. It's a good character exploration to do, as an excuse to let the character do what they wanted to do with her and let the character grow. I would have preferred that Saru give her the thing as part of her studies.
Yeah.
And so,
do you not think that maybe this was? Do you not think that maybe this was something that establishes, Saru's lack of experience as captain, because he didn't, he wasn't promoted within Starfleet to become captain. They ended up in the future, and he had been the first officer. Says, okay, well now you're the captain of Discovery, and through the season, I felt you could see there was a certain amount of doubt in his mind. He made some decisions that that Vance sort of pulled him up on. He said, say for example, I can't remember what it was, but an issue that Burnham says, we got to go and check this out. remember what it was exactly now, but Admiral Vance says to him afterwards that you should have come to me with that. I might have said that the risk was worth taking. There was a couple of decisions that Saru made, and I think maybe that promoting to Tilly to acting first officer, he didn't make her first officer, acting first officer was an error again on his part, because maybe he trusted her and her abilities. Because I mean, there was a couple of occasions where when the ship is boarded, they say like,
"Have we
what's
lost
going on here?"
Frank?
Not so easily, like there's an inexperienced cadet as captain. Have you lost me? Have you lost me?
Yeah, well, you're stuttering for me. I don't know if I'm stuttering for everybody else. So anyway, you're back now. It's fine. Sorry, we just missed the last.
Yeah, but I think that was maybe an error on Saru's part, which is part of how they took the ship so easily. They're saying she was inexperienced. But I'd say this was like, a major moment for her, like, when the ship is taken over and she finds herself in that situation. So by the end of it, when she tells Burnham to take command, she's now ready. Like the experience that she had throughout that, say, last couple of episodes is what will give her the steel and experience to be a first officer, But it'll be interesting to see if she's going to be the first officer in season 4. Most people think that she is, like,
Well, and that's the thing. Like, had they made it like Saru was bringing her in and goes, "I like what you're doing. You need some experience. You need to be like," and given him a stronger character position to kind of look around and go, "Okay, she needs to make some hard decisions to help solidify herself and solidify her character, make her stronger." So I'm going to make, as part of the command training program, I'm going to give you the opportunity to do this. And have they gone down the road of rewording it in such a way that this is part of your training, or even have a discussion with another character to say, I'm going to give her this opportunity so that to let her shine, and to help her make those hard decisions, and help grow her confidence. And it would have been Saru being a stronger captain, giving someone an opportunity and knowing someone can do the job, which in the current storyline, he knew she could do the job, but also giving a reason to, well, I'm going to push her into having to stop hiding in Jeffrey's tubes and nacelles when she's had a bad day. This will help help her drive her character. But once she, like, as I said, once the decision was made and Mary Wiseman Tilly was doing the job, I had no problems with her portrayal of that and the decisions she was making and how she was performing that. It was the decision of making an ensign the first officer, and she, in season 1, she was a cadet. Season 2, she was an ensign. And season 3, she's first officer. So literally you're taking someone, and even they haven't given her too much of a backstory enough before Starfleet Academy, like say Leonard McCoy in JJ verse, where Leonard McCoy was a doctor and he joined Starfleet in his 40s and made friends with Jim. So by the time he comes out of the academy, they gave him lieutenant commander's commission and made him chief medical officer, but that's because he spent 20 years as a doctor already. It's just like, right, well, we're going to give you a command level promotion because you have 20 years life experience as a doctor in the position. We're not going to give you a starship, but we're going to give you a medical base, very important position on the ship. So again, he wasn't the senior doctor until the senior doctor died in an attack, but he was one of the senior doctors. He was a doctor coming out straight away. And so you'd understand that because there was a certain amount of life before Starfleet Academy. He had to go through the academy to get his commission. But when he came out, it was like, right, well, you've done your training, but we're also going to give you this particular rank. Had they done that with Tilly, it was like, well, you've gone through all of this and all this shit has happened. Congratulations. You're going to skip ensign and we're going to make you a lieutenant. You're going to come out of the academy, come out of your cadet, and you're a lieutenant.
That's what I mean. So, when Saru did promote her, he made her acting first officer, not actual first officer. And he did say until he found a suitable person to take the role permanently.
It still doesn't matter.
It is. I feel like, that was just setting up the situation where, these last 2 episodes where the Discovery was taken over by Osira was the cauldron that forges her to be ready to be a first officer to Burnham. Now it'll be interesting to see because, like, I mean, Saru is still there. He's not gone. He's coming back. So it'll be interesting to see what role he plays.
That's what I was happy to see. Like, that was another thing.
I've seen a few people commenting, "Oh no, don't tell me Saru's gone. He's not." Like,
well, we know from his own social media posts that he shaved his head so he can.
Oh yeah, no, he's currently filming season 4 at the moment, so
he's back. So that's okay because we all, especially on the Cuchulainn, we all have a soft spot for Doug Jones.
Yeah, we do totally. Yes, yeah.
So, we'd be very disappointed if Doug ever left the series.
I see there that Joanne gave some good advice though regarding that. She said, "Never leave a ginger in charge."
Oi.
So
you leave my beard out of this.
They do tend to be a little bit temperamental, don't they?
Oh yeah. Well, so I mean, on the Tilly thing, yes, I was kind of like, come on. Had they made her a lieutenant, and then I don't care whether it was acting first officer or not, she was the first officer. She was the one having to do, People have a problem with, somebody like that's the job of Will Riker's job or Kira Nerys. Their job is, well, we've got 2 people in the department and they're not getting on. Okay, well, they're not being able to sort it out themselves. Their commanding officer's not being able to sort it out. I have to bring it to the first officer's attention. Now the first officer has to make that decision. And there's a certain amount of experience that the first officer needs to be able to make those decisions. So you're not just dealing with stuff on the bridge. You're dealing with the crew playing together as well. That's the XO's job, is to make sure that the captain has the time to make the big decisions, and the XO and the first officer, they're the ones running the ship and doing the paperwork until it comes to a thing. Well, Captain, you have to make this decision. So that's a hell of a responsibility to give, somebody fresh out of the academy or just finished their cadet program, even if they're on the command track program. So that I didn't like. Had they promoted her through the season and gone, congratulations, and just stepped her up the ladder a little bit more, because you've got all the other bridge officer characters, and the one thing is Nielsen. There's a thing as well I wanted to come across. The actress who plays Nielsen, she takes the con generally when Saru leaves the bridge and Burnham's not around and stuff. She was the one taking the bridge. Mary Wiseman is promoted over her. So, if you're training someone and you're going to put them into the acting first officer role, surely you'd continually go, you have the con Tilly, and give the ensign that job of the big chair, while Nielsen has her job to do. Because obviously everybody has a job to do. They don't have new recruits coming in. You don't know about any of the other shifts. Obviously, do they have a 24-hour shift, an 8-hour shift, a 12-hour shift? This is the main senior bridge crew. Who's running the night shift? Who's running beta shift and gamma shift? So, and all these things have been created over the 50 years of Star Trek and all the different shows that we've watched, the 700 hours of Trek that we have. So, and I'm wondering what happened to, I agree with you, Andy. Andy says Nielsen should have been, because that's what they were setting up every time they left the bridge. But I'm wondering if there are 2 influences on these particular story decisions. Captain Killy is extremely popular out there from the Terran timeline. So Mary Wiseman playing a blinder in the Mirror Universe as Captain Killy. So has the Captain Killy popularity gone, oh, well, they like Mary in the big chair, maybe we'll put Mary more so in the big chair, and Mary is an actress that can, well, do it. So let's write that into the Prime universe storyline, that she's also now in the chair because her counterpart's in the chair. That's popular with the fans. Let's do some fan service there. I wonder if that was part of that. Also, I did know
the first time that Trek has done that.
It's true. It's true.
They do sometimes look and see what positive reactions they're getting to certain aspects of the show, and they might look at that and say, well, we'll have to do more of this. For example, even with the original Trek, Spock got an awful lot more to do in season 2 and 3 because he became such a popular character.
Right. Yeah.
He was getting fan mail and all this stuff. He was getting so much stuff that William Shatner even turned around and said, this guy's getting too many lines. What's going on here? I'm the star of the show. So that can happen. But with and she killed it as Captain Killy in the Mirror episodes. I thought they were fantastic.
Just to go back there, sorry, because Andy said the same thing that I was saying. This is in regards to this is Lieutenant Nielsen. I can't remember the actress's name. Stunning actress, and you know, I'm wondering, was there a scheduling conflict with that?
There was issues because of COVID.
And I wonder, did she get it, or she had to isolate or something? Because there was this. And I don't begrudge this other actress her time on the show, the 2 episodes that she got. Fantastic paycheck for this actress. Didn't do a bad job. But immediately this brunette character appeared with the command crew as they were running out of air through the ship. And I'm guessing that was a Nielsen's storyline. That was a Nielsen character. That was supposed to be her slot. But something happened to the actress. She couldn't make it due to COVID or something like that. And unfortunately, because I was looking at that actress going, oh, it's Ensign Ricky. You know, is she wearing, you know, they don't have, obviously they didn't have red, but they had bronze. Yeah. Like, is she wearing a bronze uniform? You know, is she the equivalent of red? Is she, you know, is she the one that they're, you know, she's going to die of asphyxiation. And then that's going to make the rest of them really go, oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Well, we have to work harder now because she's died. I was really expecting that unknown face to be, is she in there just to die?
But it's the thing, because those last few episodes were being done while all the whole COVID thing was kicking off. Like, for example, in the finale for Tig Notaro, she wasn't on it, but they filmed her afterwards. That scene at the very end of the show, they're all in the new uniforms and they're watching Captain Burnham come onto the bridge, and you see Tig Notaro watching her, you know, and I read somewhere where that was filmed separately. There were scenes they couldn't do because of, you know, lockdown and all that sort of stuff. So it very much what happened.
Made statements to say that she will not be as much of a part of season 4 until COVID is less of a thing. So she's like, Tig is herself, and she's known as a very outspoken person. She's not going to. She doesn't give a shit about what she's doing. You know, she's happy for the paycheck, but she's not going to be sad if she loses it. So she's very much, you know, going to make her own decisions. So she's going to reduce. I saw that she's going to reduce her role in season 4 because of COVID. Until it's under control, then she'll make a return.
But that's it. You know, I mean, it's still very much having an effect. You know, unfortunately, you know, as you well know. And he says, "I love Captain Killy this season, especially this season." Yeah, I actually go back to the Mirror episodes of this season. You know, where they completed the Giorgio storyline. I loved it. Well, I mean, you know, I loved the Mirror episodes from Deep Space Nine, the original series, and you know, the first season of Discovery, and now this. And I thought it was a great way to send off Giorgio wherever she's gone to in the Gateway Forever, the Gate of Forever,
the Guardian of Forever,
so that they can start, you know, working on the Section 31 show. But I loved it. I thought it was great. And Captain Killy, you know, as you say, Mary Wiseman, she's brilliant in the role. But I thought they all killed it in that, you know, and it was great just to revisit that universe again.
I mean, once they went in, I was like, great, okay. But then it was too many episodes for me. I was like, oh, we're back here again. You know, it was, you know, okay, we're going to do this thing. Michelle Yeoh is leaving the series. This is the reason why they're doing it. It's helped setting up her show whenever they eventually get to do it. It's obviously on the back burner now, which is a dangerous place for it to be, you know, because of COVID. Michelle Yeoh, obviously, she wants to do it, but in the interim, she could very easily get other projects, which she is doing. I saw recently she's been down in Australia doing something, you know, so which quite easily could mean that she's going to do something in Asia. I don't know what her schedule is going to be like. So, you know,
especially hard because I thought she really killed it this season. You know,
she's always amazing. Always.
You know, Michelle Yeoh is always fantastic, but her character in season 3 had so much more to do, you know, right up, and then of course the 2 Mirror episodes where she is, you know, wrestling with what she was and what she's become after her time in the Prime Universe. You know, I thought it was fantastic. You know, she really.
I've said from the pilot that I was happy to have had a Shenzhou show with Michelle Yeoh as captain. I would have happily watched that show with, you know, a Prime Universe show where Michelle Yeoh was just Prime Georgiou, and I would have happily had that Star Trek show. That's not what we got. They were going in a different direction, but I would have liked to have seen her stick around as that Georgiou for many more episodes than she did, turning into the evil Georgiou. But of course, that could have been the reason why Michelle Yeoh took the role, not just because she was, oh, you're going to be the goody captain, and she may not have wanted that and gone, well, the only reason I'm taking this is because after 3 episodes I get to be the villain. Nah.
It's always more fun to play the villain, is what most actors will say. Like,
and having done it myself, yes, it is.
Yeah.
You can
and she did a great job again of it, like, you know. So yeah, I mean, it was great to see her get a great send off like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else people are saying here. Joanne said that Georgiou is the greatest, and it was interesting to see how she developed as a person after her time in Discovery. Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. I think that's what they established in those 2 episodes, how her character had changed. You know, how, you know, she saved the Kelpian, who was going to be taken off to be butchered for his gang leader, like, you know, and then saved Saru. You know, it's, you know, her character had completely flipped by the time.
I don't think completely flipped.
Maybe not completely, but her moral center completely changed.
Yeah, I mean, they had to do that. I think to make the new show that they're going to make with Section 31, that, you know, she's not going to be good, she's not going to be bad, but they had to take her from being bad and bring her into the gray to make it a show that people will actually, you know, watch. You know, people do love that kind of ambiguous character, not knowing what, because you know what the good guy's going to do and you know what the villain's going to do. The character in the middle, the gray character, is going to be the tough one. I mean, I could sideline that. We could go straight into the Mandalorian there, because one of the more interesting characters that we've seen in Mandalorian is Ahsoka Tano. And, you know, Ahsoka, if you've watched Clone Wars and Rebels, which I highly recommend that you do, to catch up. And like, even if you subscribe to Disney Plus, they actually have an Ahsoka Tano playlist that they've created. Go find that. It's 2 or 3 hours of Ahsoka Tano episodes across from Clone Wars into Rebels, so that you can watch season 2 of The Mandalorian and know who the fuck she is. A great character. Starts off as like everyone's most hated character in the Clone Wars movie, and then becomes everyone's favorite character. She was so much better. So highly recommend you go into that. But she's a Grey Jedi. And that's why she avoided Order 66 and the Jedi Purge. She wasn't. She was kicked out of the Order. She left the Order, and when she was offered to come back into the Order, she refused. So that's why she's still out there. That's why she would know of Luke and another Jedi out there. She would have felt him in the Force, but she's not following the Order of the Jedi. So she's. Her show, I think, is going to be a very interesting show in The Mandalorian, which we'll cover after we finish with Discovery. Because I'm not finished pulling it apart.
Well, you know, you've got a cuddly Baby Yoda selling like hotcakes now. Everybody, who's going to go for a cuddly Dot?
Dot, yeah.
Yeah.
Dot 23, Dot 28.
Is it Dot 23? Yeah. That's the one that survived at the end. Is it the one that pulled? Yeah, out of the cell. Yeah. But
Dot, the droid from Discovery, that's the Sphere Intelligence.
That's the Sphere Intelligence. Yeah.
The Sphere Intelligence was separated in the computer program, and they were told to turn it off. So obviously, the intelligence had to jump into the droids. So that'll be an interesting thing going forward. We know that from the short treks that the intelligence eventually goes back into the ship, but in season 4 is the Dot 23. Thank you, Andy Quinn. Is the intelligence going to stay in the droids for a while, or is it going to reabsorb itself back into the ship?
You could do both.
Well, obviously,
Andromeda did that with the intelligence there and the AI on Andromeda. They also had an Android as well.
Alexa
built
Joy.
by Harper, if I remember correctly. Harper, I think, was the character who built the Android for it.
I gave up on Andromeda a long time ago. I gave up on. What's one of those few sci-fi shows, but I gave up. There's other stuff. There's other stuff in Discovery season 3 that like I didn't enjoy the amount of alternate universe, the mirror universe episodes. I'm like, okay, you're going to do it. Oh, you're still doing it. Oh, okay, we're still here. We haven't gone back yet. I did like The Guardian on the Edge of Forever. I was until some fucker on Instagram spoil it for me. I did have the question of, is this guy a Q? Is he the Guardian? Is he a Q? Who is this guy? And then before I actually got
the problem there, of course, is like, it airs in the States on the Thursday and it aired here on the Friday.
Yeah.
And there were websites and Facebook pages and Twitter pages, particularly American ones, where shortly after it aired on the Thursday evening, they were up with photos and images and the whole thing,
Yeah.
I know Michael, he got spoiled for the end of Discovery because he saw a photograph of the guys in the new uniforms,
Yeah.
And it's like, could they not wait? Just wait, and they all know that it airs over here and rest of the world mostly on Friday.
Yeah. They don't care. I mean, well, look, you can see by the political situation in the States that not everybody over there is aware that there is a planet out there, that there's a world besides themselves.
Yeah.
So,
there was so much spoiler stuff there, and I look after the Cuchulainn Twitter page, along with Ian and Sharon, and I just had to switch it off. I would switch it off. I wouldn't go near it from Thursday onwards. Because particularly on Twitter.
Well, as I said,
very quickly,
as I said, I think before, on a previous live stream with us, I changed. Jerry Lynch. I will get to this, Jerry. I will get to this.
Let me just say, mine is already ordered. Well, pre-ordered. I haven't seen anything yet. But
what was it? What was I going? Jerry, you distracted me there, Jerry. I had a point to make. I can't remember what it was now, because you've annoyed me.
Something about the spoilers and stuff, was it? We just talked about.
Well, yeah, just in general. Oh yes. So I've said it before on the streams. I've changed. I've changed. I hate the week-to-week stuff. I was like, that's so 20th century. It's so we've a different platform now. We have streaming. The episodes are pretty much complete before you drop them. Just fucking drop them. If you're doing an arc storyline, let me watch it as an arc storyline. Don't leave me hanging week to week. You have my subscription. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not waiting another week so that you can fill my 15 minutes of ads or 16 minutes of ads as it was back in the day for me to sit and watch them. I have paid for this already, so you don't need to stretch it out. How many episodes? It's 12 episodes. You're going to get 12 episodes into 3 months. So to stop you from paying for a month and then canceling your subscription until another show comes out that you want to see and then binging it in another month. I mean, maybe that's why they do that week-to-week nonsense, is to, instead of just getting a month out of people, they get 3 months out of people. But it drives me insane. It's like, I paid for it. You've got my subscription out of me. I've been around for years, as of so many people. So let me watch.
That's Netflix stuff. That's Netflix here in UK and Ireland. Generally speaking, they drop everything.
Yeah, exactly. So
when you're taking a show from the likes of CBS All Access or some of the other channels or networks that air their shows weekly, they kind of still have to do that in the same way, But I'd say, if this was a completely Netflix produced show, they would have just dropped the whole thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. There are some shows that it seems, because of the influence of the old style of TV, and I've said it many times before, it is because there's still network executives in their 60s, their 50s, and whatever, that are hanging on to the marketing campaigns of your and of old in the States that are like the whole thing in the noughties where Comcast was lobbying the United States to allow them to throttle the internet so that companies like Netflix would have to pay a premium to use web services, but Comcast wouldn't have to pay as much. And that was a push to keep people subscribing to their cable companies and to keep people subscribing to what we would have here, like Sky or whatever cable package that you would have. So you'd still be using the old-fashioned flick the channel TV and scheduling so that they could keep that marketing strategy of commercials and advertising going in that respect. That was the big push of net neutrality in the 90s. That's why they wanted to keep it. So now that they've had to, and Netflix was pushing past that, creating this new way of doing things, they didn't want to jump on board because they were happy with what was working. They were making plenty of money out of it. Netflix changed the market. So they now had to all jump on board. But if the new strategy is all the television channels are way behind, but they're now jumping into the streaming services. So you've got NBC creating Peacock, you've got CBS All Access for CBS, anything belonging to CBS and Paramount all goes on to CBS All Access. HBO we're jumping on now with HBO Max. We don't have it, but in the States they've got Hulu. So many shows are on Hulu. Hulu's got a staggered pricing system. So if you pay the baseline for Hulu, you have to suffer the ads, but if you pay them an extra $2 or $3 a month more, you don't get the ads. So they have a staggered system, and I could see that creeping in where you'll get a cheap one where you can subscribe for $2 a month for this thing, and you'll get ads. You subscribe for $5 and you'll get less ads, and then if you do for the full whack $10 a month, you'll get no ads. And that's what they do, because that is similar to their system in the States and it used to be the same here where, right, well, here's your package and you get Sky 1, Sky 2, BBC 1 through 4, Channel 1 through 4, Channel 4, ITV, blah, 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 all your basics. But if you want Sky Movies, that's an extra £5 a month. Or if you want, Sky Movies plus the National Geographic channel plus the Discovery channel. If you want that package, you pay an extra bit. Or if you want Sky Sports, you have to pay this extra bit. So that's the old way of doing things. So they're trying to figure out how to do that with the new stuff, which means that we're getting stuff released the old-fashioned way of week to week. And Joanne has said it there in her last message, where Picard damaged by the week release. And I totally agree with that, because I thought Picard, it was a great show, really enjoyed it, plenty of nods, but the first 4 episodes really felt, and the word I use reflects Patrick Stewart's age, unfortunately, but they felt to me geriatric, because it was taking so long to get going, because they were exploring this new, older Picard. Had you been able to sit down and watch that in 2 or 3 hours, nobody would have felt that way.
No, that's it. And it was one of the things I remember about the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, because that also was such a story-driven show. And I mean, it wasn't episodic, but it was shown weekly.
Yeah.
I remember
days before streaming. So
exactly. Yeah. But, before streaming, but they still were creating this new show that was very story-driven. And I remember talking to Shay, I agree with, and he didn't enjoy it because he said, you watch an episode and it would just stop and you go, well, I haven't gone anywhere with this yet.
Yeah, right.
You have to wait till the following week. So it was only after you got the DVDs and you watched them 2 or 3 episodes in a row and you go, this is where it's going. It's so much stronger, and it makes so much difference when you're able to follow the story along. But now streaming allows you to do that. But unfortunately, as you say, currently the way Trek is doing at the moment, it's episodic, and it does make it a little bit harder, particularly with the stronger written stuff like
I think Picard was to me on a weekly release was 4 episodes too long. I felt that they, because a streaming series now is 10 to 13 episodes. That's a streaming release.
You've said though, John, that with Discovery this season, you've made it until it had maybe 3 or 4 episodes.
That's right.
And you didn't watch it. Did you feel it worked better for you doing it that way?
Yeah, I felt better about it, and especially I think Marcus said it earlier on. Marcus has said, I I couldn't believe how the explanation for the burn was dragged out so long, only to get such a lackluster explanation. 21st Century's Trek deserves better writing. I mean, that's Marcus's opinion. I don't think it to me, it didn't drag out because that was a story hook that they needed to keep. That was the mystery that they needed to keep in the overall arc of the story for the season. You know, what was the cause of the burn? So what is the mystery? So that is the story point that's driving them through the series. So, and I suppose this is the different perspective I tend to have versus a lot of other people, because TV is what I do. TV is where I work. And I analyze stuff and storylines in a different way. I'm not just going, you know, I don't just sit there and go, entertain me, make me happy about what I'm watching. It's your job to entertain me. I don't sit there with that. I'm going, well, I want to be entertained. I want my escapism. I do want you to entertain me, and I do want you to make me happy about this. But I'm actually interested to see how, after 100 years of cinema, and all the stories and the movies and the storylines that have been done for the last 100 years, television has been around since, well, 52 was when the color TV came out. But television, its episodic ideas have been around since the late 30s and the 40s with the serials that used to be in the cinema. And, you know, when vaudeville was dying off and cinema was becoming a thing, we had the serials, Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, the originals, the Batman. Actually, Batman, the original 1946 show is up on Amazon Prime, and I would suggest people go watch it for the absolute bullshit science that they put into it. I mean, it's like, with the modern knowledge we have about technology, to watch 1946 episode of Batman and the absolute ridiculous science that they come up with to make their MacGuffins for the show, it's just like, you're like, what? But of course, back then, people didn't know anything about how radio waves work, how things are connected, you know, all this type of stuff. Even in, you know, like even if you watch Star Trek closely in the 80s, and Data says, I have so many kiloquads of data, and you're like, well, my phone actually is more powerful than data these days. You know, like, I think in the comics back in the day, in Avengers, I think you loaned me a comic 10 years ago, and Vision, he was unbelievable. He had 36K of memory. You know, and this was able to run an artificial intelligence, a sentient being, you know, so it was like, so these are the technology things that you want. But I say, go back and watch the old stuff. So my point is, today, there is so much throughput of TV. How do you keep a mystery going? How do you stop the audience from completely guessing where you're going with your storyline? And that is the hardest thing for any writer on any show, and also to keep it on schedule, to keep the writing room going, to continue to make stronger and stronger storylines. Like, even the show that I worked on, give you, like, time frame wise, all the stuff that I did on my last day on Vikings in season 6, episode 20 or whatever it was, we did in November 2018. That's two years, 3 months ago, and it only aired last week. But I remember when we worked on that, there was a storyline to do with a bunch of people going off to Iceland with the character Floki. And we would get the scripts, or even, like, I wouldn't read the full script, but I'd get the dailies, and I'd be sent off to a quarry somewhere in Wicklow to shoot some stuff for the Iceland scenes. And all the crew were sitting there going, this is rubbish. This is going to be chewed apart when it comes out on the on TV. And we were right. But that particular storyline was an attempt to growth for the Floki character and Gustav Skarsgård's character, but it was also it ended up being filler because there wasn't enough storyline of the rest of the what the Vikings were up to. For Michael Hurst had the rest of the storyline planned, but he had to fill his time with a B storyline, and this Icelandic storyline became his B storyline, and it didn't work out. But he'd gone there, and he had to continue it. Like, even one of the actors tried to get out of the contract by injuring himself sailboarding, and didn't come back for a while because he was just like, oh, why did I accept this contract? So, so there was a lot of that. So I know
with Discovery, that they're following that with the burn, because with the burn, I think that it was a tool used to put the situation with the Federation into a certain point. So when Discovery arrived, that third season was all about, okay, looking to find out what happened and what caused the burn, but it was more so to establish the fact that the Federation was nothing compared to what it was in its heyday, and they're trying to find out, find ways to try and help bring it back. And obviously that's going to go into season 4. But, would you agree with Marcus when he said that the cause of the burn and the way they did that, was that lackluster? Would you think that was lackluster?
I don't know if it was lackluster. It's a tough one. It didn't seem to get enough out of it, and does it always have to be? We already mentioned this at the start, but does it always have to be a big bad? Does it have to be a huge reason something like this happened, like, say, the Dominion or the Borg caused this, as an attack on the Federation, or, that just something randomly happened, that nobody knew anything of, and it caused a massive effect. And this is what we're dealing with now. I think a lot of modern storytelling in TV shows, two major influences that I knew of growing up and I followed growing up, and I'm sure they were influenced by other things in regards arc storylines, is J. Michael Straczynski with Babylon 5. And I didn't know it at the time, and I've said it before, but before JMS got the chance to create Babylon 5, he was writing for the Real Ghostbusters cartoon. And season 1 of the Real Ghostbusters cartoon was 70 episodes. And there's a whole big discussion. I've read the behind the scenes on what went on there and why JMS left the show. But one of the things he did do was after he left in season 1, he actually left on principle because they were influenced by a left-wing marketing company that had been hired, and it started to go down a very Christian-influenced storylines, and some of the characters were changed. Like, and you as a child you wouldn't see it, but when you read about it, you're quite eye-opening. Like, for example, just to go into that for a second, characters like Winston Zedmore, the black character in later seasons of Real Ghostbusters, he was just relegated to driving the car, and you don't notice so much until it's pointed out to you. But if you watch the later episodes, he literally just drives the Ghostbusters around, has a conversation in the car, and doesn't really do much ghostbusting. Janine Melnitz, because she was so hip with the horn ring glasses and the colored hair and stuff like that, they softened her because she was supposed to be the mom to the boys. When JMS came back for one episode, he constantly got asked to come back onto the writer staff. Came back for one episode. He said, "I'll come back for one episode," and he came back to fix the Janine character. So his arc storyline abilities to kind of remember, well, this is what we've done before, and I'm going to continue that storyline. So what he did was he wrote an excuse as to why Janine changed from season 1 and then from season 3 and 4. And so he's in season 5. He said she had been possessed by a relative of Janine's, like an aunt or something like that, to soften the character. And then the storyline became about the Ghostbusters realizing that Janine had actually been possessed, and that's why she'd been changed for the last few years by a benevolent spirit. And then they had to like separate the two, the spirit from Janine, and so they got the original Janine back. But that was because of influences from a marketing strategy company. But that's JMS. He was one of the characters that did the overall big bad. He created, and he would in Ghostbusters, it wasn't so much a seasonal big bad, but he created the character. In America, they call him Sam Hain, but the pumpkin-headed Samhain was a big bad in real Ghostbusters, and and then the other person that I grew up as a teenager watching that always had the big, and that's where the term big bad comes from, is the Joss Whedon Buffy universe stuff, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He always had a big bad. There was always it started off as a C storyline, or you didn't know who was influencing at the start. And like playing a video game, you get halfway through the season, you think you got to the big bad, but you didn't. You got to his lieutenant, and then that character is defeated, but there's a bigger bad guy at the, that you still have to get to. So you get to episode 10, something happens, then you go off to episode 20, and that's your big reveal, and that's your big hard problem for your characters, or you get to halfway point and you're like, oh, okay, we did that, and you have a couple of episodes of relaxing time, and then you got to build it back up again. And it's all about keeping people in, and that's what the burn was the mystery that you need to keep people watching. That's
it. It was a tool to drive that story forward. But I'm kind of glad that it didn't go down the obvious route of being a big bad at the end of it. Like, you know what I mean? That wasn't the direction that they took.
Yeah.
For me, I think that was a very Trek thing to do. As you said, Buffy and others have done, always do the big bad at the end of the season. You suddenly find whether it's the Master or in the first season, or any of the other big bads that they've done, the Mayor and all the rest of it. So I'm glad it didn't go down that route. But just to go back to a question that you were going to come back to earlier, because we got to the Mandalorian as well. Opinions on the new uniforms, Jerry asked.
Hate them. Hate them. Oh my God, I hate them. I have a love-hate relationship with the designers on Star Trek Discovery, personally. And it goes down again. It's the same route, and I always say this, and I've said it already on this podcast. And it goes down the route of all the negative, not negative press, but the negative feelings towards the actress who played Rose in The Last Jedi. The hate that particular actress was given because of the character that she was portraying. I mean, how dare someone do that? I'm never going to begrudge someone getting a job. So while I personally dislike what they're doing on Discovery, I'm not going to start saying, no, you have to cancel the show or get rid of that person. Oh my God, their stuff is disgraceful. It's a style aesthetic that I just dislike. The new uniforms, the 31st century uniforms, I think there's far too much of a militaristic influence nowadays in them. I would go so far as to say that with the cut of the shoulders and stuff, there was a certain hint of 40s Hugo Boss. A certain, it is a bit too much to say, but just take it back a notch from a fascist look to me. It's too high collar. French, German, European staff officers, it was suited and booted. It was a bit too suited and booted. I mean, great, they got rid of those stupid collars. I hated those collars from 1, 2, and 3, and the stuff that they're going to use on Enterprise and Strange New Worlds. Oh my God, I hated that collar. I didn't mind the zip going off sideways, but the collar annoyed the crap out of me. And I noticed that they started to use it less and less in certain points, where they actually started using the away team jumpsuit, which actually just had the zipper in the center. Sometimes. So I'm wondering, and like you start seeing that, well, just like in the classic movies with the Monster Maroons, you saw by the end that all the actors were doing this. They all were just opening that thing, going, right, we're all stressed, we'll fucking get this thing open, and where you never saw that in Deep Space Nine, because they were. The uniforms on DS9 were designed to be functional and comfortable. Like the original design of those uniforms was the Next Generation. They're all serving on the ship. So, they're all in uniform and they've all got their things. So they have the collar and it doesn't move, you have to do the old Picard maneuver. The first couple of years were stupid. And they realized that eventually got rid of the spandex. And then the two pieces were a lot better to become more comfortable. And the design, I think, got better. They got rid of the bands and they brought in the collar, but it looked well. You did have the odd shape of the triangle down the bottom, which was offset. We grew up with that. We didn't know. But when we got to Deep Space Nine, the whole idea was Deep Space Nine was when you go to a starbase, it's a bit more grimy, it's a bit more hands-on. As a Deep Space Nine uniform is supposed to be a bit more like overalls, and that's why it was black up to here, and then the shoulders change color. It was because you're going to be working in a grimy environment. And so that was the idea when they designed that. It's also to make it instantly recognizable that you watch the show and go, that's Deep Space Nine because they're wearing a different uniform. And Next Generation, they wear a Starship uniform. So and it's why the Defiant looked completely different to any other Starship. It's like you look at the show and you go, oh, that's Deep Space Nine ship, or that's the Enterprise ship. So there's when shows are airing concurrently in the old way of doing TVs, that's why designs were done in that way, where you had the Defiant look and completely different. It was so you could go, that's what that is. It's like when Voyager was designed and it was elongated with the Garden Trell saucer section. You instantly you look at that and go, well, the nacelles aren't on sticks. It's not a circle or an oval. That's Voyager. It's not a little stubby thing. It's not the Defiant. That's not Deep Space Nine. So that's why they want instant recognizability back in the day to show, oh, I'm watching that show by just a glance, a glimpse of what they're wearing. The designer, I watched some videos of the designer designing the uniform. She's very happy about what she does, and she's very interested into it, and she knows her shit. Like, she's not an ignorant person that doesn't know what they're doing. She knows her stuff. She knows her materials. She knows what she's going for. I just don't like the cuts that she's doing. Her style seems to be asymmetrical, an asymmetrical style, and I just don't like it. And especially this advancement, like the collar bar here. It's just who said that? Like Jerry Lynch said this.
Like a World War I French army officer.
That means that the actors have to be like this. So as soon as they try and look down, the whole thing is going to bunch. So how comfortable is that going to be when they want to do those serious things? Do they unbutton? Do they take that rank bar off? And throw it open? Are they going to have that type of thing? Or, are the actors going to have to go through this whole thing like this? I do prefer that it actually is a looser fit. It's more of a jacket. It's not as form-hugging. So I do quite like that. But one side of the jacket hangs lower than the other side all the way around. I mean, I was like, why? It's just.
I'm reserving judgment until I see it properly in the fourth season. But I quite like the look of it.
I saw it plenty. I saw plenty on the Starbase. Oh, why is the security officer wearing a jumpsuit when everybody else is wearing jackets? And her
jumpsuit now or not? But yes, I know who you're talking about now. Yes. We'll probably see more of that in the fourth season as the Federation becomes stronger and expands again. To me, the uniforms reminded me of the Air Force uniforms from Babylon 5. There's a certain similarity there, and they did a better job.
They did. The designer on that did a way better job than not a better job. I mean, like how it's put together is not bad. You know what I mean? I don't like the
aesthetic, really, isn't it? Whether you're going to appreciate it or not.
Like the color schemes, like obviously the colors that the department colors, the division colors, no problem with that. But the overall tone, the gray tone, stepping away from the classic black. Even when Discovery started, the blue was a bit of an Enterprise type of thing. It was led from Enterprise. So we've been influenced by that. You could see it definitely as a progression from an Enterprise flight suit style progressing up. You could see that, even though I heartily.
I think they kind of hinted at that as well. The episode where they went to the Trill homeworld, and you get to see the various different personalities in the different Trill hosts. The Trill host, I can't think of her character's name now, but there was progression in some of the uniforms that you saw some of them wearing, and they seem to be getting closer to what Starfleet is wearing now. So I think they did hint that there was progression there.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting to see. But I think we'll wrap up now with Discovery.
No, I have one more thing to complain about.
Oh dear. I know you have a long list, but we need to get on to the Mandalorian.
I know. Detached nacelles.
Oh, I love them.
What's the... Oh, come on.
Did you see the way Booker's ship was able to reassemble itself and fly through the transwarp conduit and avoid all the...
Booker's ship is from Transformers. Okay, fine. It answers to Optimus Prime. Okay. But never mind that transforming ship. Like that's what I said to you when I was talking to you about it the other day. Like there's a scene in an early episode where the ship flies away from the camera, and then transforms, goes to turn around to fly and start shooting. I mean, the easiest thing to do as it flew away was that. That was a lot quicker to fly back instead of taking that moment to going, hey, look at our cool special effects team can make it do this, and now we're going to fly back. That bugged me because it wasn't efficient for the storyline. That was, hey, look, this is us showing off. When it transforms, and goes into an elongated ship so it can fly through debris, yes, I'll accept that. That's because it's for a story point, it needs to do it then. When it needs to contract and reshape itself to fit inside Discovery's landing bay, that's fine. That's a story reason for that. But the detached nacelles thing, and as I said to you the other day as well, that even in Rogue One, when they had the U-wing and the wings have to sweep in this way and that way, and half the time they forgot why a ship was orientated a certain way for story reasons. They did the same thing with Discovery. There was a scene where, to go into Spore Drive, to go to Black Alert, the nacelle, have to reconnect physically, and then it spins and drops, right? And they established this, and they spent half an episode, half a scene talking about it and establishing that, right? But then there was a close-up shot where they're looking over the shoulder of the ship at the planet, and it drops out of spore space, and the nacelle is already detached. And I'm like, that should have been, it drops, and then the nacelle shifts away on its malleable matter, whatever it is, so that should have dropped because it was in the foreground. You've established in the story that the ship now does this thing coming out of Spore Drive, and the next shot where it drops out of Spore Drive in close-up on that section of the ship, you haven't animated the nacelle moving away. You've just dropped it and it's already separated. So it's like you've given up on this thing already. That bugged the crap out of me. But
I think that would be because from your own, as someone who works in the industry, from that point of view, the average viewer is kind of not even going to cop that really,
yeah, but it's one of those things.
It's not just Star Wars. They've all done it,
Pay attention to your details, especially. You have so much work to do. You could keep an eye on this. Look, no, because it's a thing where I know how long it takes for these shots to be created.
Yeah.
So I would like to know where along the pipeline did they decide that's too much work to animate that we have to skip over that story beat to meet the deadline. Because I know it takes so long for these shots to be created, and the artists, you have a team, 10 artists could be working on that one shot that's like a second long. I understand that. So where along the pipeline did the supervisor in the office, that's not really a TD, which is a technical director, or what they call artists, they're looking at a schedule and an Excel spreadsheet most of the day, whereas the artist is the one who actually has to animate and move things and get vertices in the right place and make sure it goes to the render farm and do all that. There's so many people involved in these effects houses, and especially for TV level stuff, they have a hell of a lot smaller teams than we would have when I worked back in Cinesite and MPC, where we had 300 artists working for 6 months on whatever movie, Harry Potter, whatever we were working on, and I was just a support staff position. But that bugged the crap out of me. And then you know, I don't know why they had to retrofit the ship. Is that so Eagle Moss can sell more models? I don't know. You know, is it like, oh, we have to look new and fancy? I don't know why they had to upgrade that. Why? And they created a whole heap of new ships.
Just imagine the extra plastic they're going to have to use just to show that. It's like the cloak defined. Lots of more plastic. Like, you know what I mean?
Here's an unpainted clear plastic miniature.
But before we finish the Discovery, actually, there was one thing I wanted to make, because we were talking about some of the complaints that were coming out, and one of them from in the early days as well was the fact that Michael Burnham would say, you know, was insubordinate, and yet now she's captain of Discovery, and Vance has said, you know, you've done a great job. I want you to take up Saru's offer to take the captaincy, you know. And they're saying, well, no way, that shouldn't have happened. Like, I mean, she was insubordinate in the first season. She mutinied and all that kind of stuff. Like, as if she's the only character who's ever done this in Trek. Like, you know, but that's, you know, for example, you know, Kirk himself, when he was an admiral, you know, disobeyed Starfleet, got Scotty to disable the Excelsior, and flew off on a whim, on an odd notion that maybe McCoy is carrying Spock's soul, shall we say?
Yeah.
And flies off. You know, manages, as it happens, to find Spock, but loses the Enterprise in the process, and then comes back and redeems himself by saving the planet, you know, from whales, basically. And but his punishment for that insubordination is to basically be put back in the captain's chair, and he's given the Enterprise again. The Enterprise A. I mean, and then you've got Cisco, who basically lies, cheats, and deceives to bring the Romulans into the Dominion War.
Amazing episode. Amazing episode.
But it establishes that, you know, it did establish that these characters can go down a darker path and then find their way back.
I didn't mind. You know, it was coming. Burnham being given the cap, because like is the difference with Discovery and the difference with Star Trek now, and I hope they change and change it back to an ensemble for Strange New Worlds. And that's another reason why I get really annoyed watching week to week. Star Trek Discovery, unfortunately, is not an ensemble show. It is the Michael Burnham show. It is the Sonequa Martin Green show. It's about that character. It's all about her. And it's only in season 3, after the fans are going, can we see more about the other characters, please?
But that's the same with the first season of TOS. It was the William Shatner show. It was Captain Kirk, and generally a little bit of Spock and a little bit of McCoy.
But that's 50 years ago. That's when they were starting.
Yeah, it was the fan reaction to the likes of Spock that, you know, as we were saying earlier, he got more dialogue to the fact that William Shatner started complaining about it. You know, they started bringing other characters into the show, but it's a similar scenario, I think, that you're talking about there.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Did you know? Did anyone notice? I saw a quick glimpse, obviously because of COVID. But there's a way there's a way that they shoot Discovery that's different as well, especially with the ensemble. It's like it's the Michael Burnham show. She's the one with all the emotions, even though she was raised as a Vulcan, and she's now her character storyline is she was no emotion, now she's a little bit of emotion, now she's, you know, found a boyfriend, and she's like really happy now because she's in the captain's chair. But during I find that they're now shooting the show where the ensemble is a hell of a lot more emotional than any other Trek show has been in the past, especially when they're going through a thing. But it seems like now that they're going a little bit past it with reaction shots. It's like now we have to show a reaction shot of everybody on the bridge. So, you know, if Detmer smiles, you know, we have to have the reaction smile. Then we have to go to Reese, and then we have to go to Nielsen, and we have to get everyone's shot where they're all like everyone's, oh great, you know, oh isn't it great? Yeah, oh it's great, you know. So you have to have 7 different smiley shots, you know, or you know, everyone's falling out of their chair at the same time. You know, back in the day, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Next Generation, we didn't have that. Like Data was sitting at his chair, you know, somebody fell out and he'd go, right, okay, but keep doing my job. You know, they've started.
They're looking for life forms. Where are you?
So that's something that's a little bit different. But I did notice that. What is the Asian chap's name on the bridge? Is that Reese or is that the other chap? I can't remember his name. Character or actor. But he's one of the secondary guys. He's weapons control, I think, or communications. But they didn't have a shot of him from that particular episode. They didn't manage to get it or something. And they in the edit they needed it because everyone gets their reaction shot. They all get their close up or their mid shot, and they had to go and find the shot of him because everybody has the new comm badge except him. So he's got the season 1 and 2 comm badge. Everyone else gets their shot with their new comm badge, and then you know that they had to go to stock footage of season 1 or season 2, an unused shot, or maybe a reused shot because they needed a shot of him, didn't get it on the day, and threw that in there. And I noticed that they've done that a couple of times. Obviously, like we mentioned about Tig Notaro not being there on the day when they did the walk in for Burnham. There's one more thing, a little plot hole that to do with the detached nacelles. When they get captured by the Viridian, the big giant ship, and Booker has to fly the spore drive, what happened to the damage done to the nacelle that knocked them out of warp? So they had detonated a bomb in the nacelle chamber, disrupted the whole warp field and the nacelle, and it's burning, and the matter's all fucked. You know, the whatever.
Yeah, but when you see it come out of warp, the nacelle is still there. It wasn't destroyed because it was attached.
But it was like hanging on. It wasn't straight.
Still hanging on. It was still there, yeah.
And it was damaged. But when they're inside the thing and he's about to go to spore drive, there's a lovely, pretty shot of Discovery, and they went install Discovery into shot. But it wasn't the damaged Discovery. It was a nice, pretty Discovery. So, you know, again, one of those things where the deadline was coming and somebody didn't spot, or they just didn't have time to go, oh, fuck. That I'm hoping
in fairness, though, John, a lot of that post-production was done from people's home laptops and, you know.
Still, did they get the right file? Did someone spot it? Is it something that they went, oh, shit, or we don't have that, we can't do it, fuck it, get it through? But, you know, it's a thing that when you establish that this is a thing that's part of the story, and then suddenly it's overwritten, you know, something, you know, it's those type of things. And before we started here, I watched a video with the special effects supervisor and he had all the Eagle Moss ships from his show behind him, and he says it's a tough thing to do. I worked in that industry. I know what's happening. But it's those things where, you know, I personally would like to know the thought processes. Like, did they spot that? And if they spotted it, okay, they spotted it, had to make that hard decision. But when it comes out on air and you're the person who knows nothing about it, and you're like, hang on, that blew up, yet it's back, you know. So there's little things like that.
They were probably spending too much time trying to make sure there was no Starbucks cups of coffee hanging around.
Standing in the back of the shot with his shoulder just inside a door.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, you know, just to finish off there, finally on Discovery, what are your hopes now for season 4?
I hope they change the uniforms. I mean, the detached nacelles, they bug me. I'm getting over it. It's like 31st century. You need a new technology. How do they do that? Well, we have to have some sort of magic, right? So they've invented a new way of, you know, because Next Generation really caught up with us in real life. So this is the 31st century. They have this new matter. It's invisible, but it's attached and all that shit, whatever. So this is a magical technology that we can't understand, but they can do. Yeah, right. They're not going to do that. They won't spend the money. Yeah, Mike, they won't spend the money, you know. But yeah,
Jerry went back to a point that I said there. No, they're not. But by the time Vance or Burnham got to 930 years later, the acts that she did there weren't mutants; they were just sort of insubordinate. So, you know, but just to show that, you know, others did sort of commit acts that were against Starfleet regulations. But sorry, yeah. So you were saying about what you're hoping for season 4.
Well, season 4, yeah. I mean, it's a fractured Federation, I'm not going to hold out any hopes for season 4. My hopes are for Strange New Worlds. That's the show that that's where my hopes are going, is Strange New Worlds. That's the Star Trek that I want to watch. That's the Star Trek that I'll get excited about. That's the Star Trek that I'll go, no, Frank, you're wrong. Discovery is not the best show. Strange New Worlds is the best show. The Enterprise is the best ship.
I think we've been debating that for years, but I'm looking forward to the Strange New Worlds as well. I think now we're in the point where we're going to get the best of both worlds, to use a TNG term. We're going to get the episodic style Star Trek, and we'll still have the season-long storylines in Discovery and Picard. So
I think I would. Well, it had to happen the way it happened. Like, it was not going to happen any other way. It would have, in hindsight, it would be nice to have had Strange New Worlds first and Discovery grow out of that. Like having a good, strong. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Mike. It would have been nice to have a strong Star Trek show and then grow out of something like Strange New Worlds. So you're getting what everybody wants to see, and everyone's and if they fuck it up, a lot of people are going to be very unhappy. But I'm really looking forward to Strange New Worlds. The short treks were brilliant. And thanks to you for that disc. Actually, I want to talk about that for a second. Because it's something that we did discuss last year in regards to the short treks, and not particularly like exactly what I said would happen, but something akin to it did. But yeah, the short treks are great. Looking forward to Strange New Worlds. I think that's going to be the show that I latch on to. The only thing I'd like them to change is the fucking collar. But I think all the actors are great. And Anson Mount, he sold that show. The fans latching on to Anson Mount, he sold that show. And I hope they do great things with that show. That's more what I'm hoping for. Discovery, now that once Strange New Worlds comes out, Discovery can explore different storylines. As I said before, I wish they'd started where they started in season 3. Even just like Enterprise, where it took 2 seasons to get where it needed to be. I really would like.
But consider this: if they had done that, you probably wouldn't be getting Strange New Worlds.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, see, things have to happen the way they do, but that's the different thing. Whereas, like, I think I pitched it before. What I would have, I wasn't a massive fan of Voyager. I watched it. I've seen every episode. Voyager found a new lease of life on Netflix. It's the most watched Star Trek show on Netflix. More than likely because people didn't get
DVDs.
What?
Because nobody bought the DVDs.
Nobody bought I did buy season 1 on VHS. I do have it on box somewhere, but yeah, nobody bought the DVDs.
No. But for me, it's absolutely the weakest.
It was like I used to say, and there's other people like Pete Meany and stuff who prefer Voyager, but to me, there was only about 4 strong episodes a season, and then it was 20 episodes of mush. Bob Picardo being the strongest character. Even when 7 came in, it wasn't stronger for me. They weakened the Borg immensely, in my opinion. Robert Beltran wasn't used enough. He was like, he's just there to fill in lines. And have the odd Native American episode. So, it wasn't the strongest show, in my opinion.
No. In fact, the problem there is, the fatigue was setting in, and as a result of that, Enterprise has been very underestimated, very underappreciated. Enterprise was actually a very good Trek show.
Enterprise was a brilliant Trek show.
But unfortunately, it came on the back of Voyager.
It came on the back of Voyager, but it also got hit with an executive reshuffle in the Paramount system. In its third season 3, season 4 crossover. So, it was the fatigue. There was a lot of elements that meant that Enterprise didn't make it as far as it should have. But at the end of Deep Space Nine, at that particular point, I thought that was the time for Star Trek to go dark. Because I was at the time I was discussing with people. Like, oh my God, I remember I have had this in my head for 20 years. What I would have liked to have seen was maybe the Dominion did take the Bajoran Quadrant and Cardassian area, maybe the Federation did lose the war. And the next show was 50 years later in the 25th century, where you don't have all the resources. The Federation is like they're doing now, the storyline, the Federation is fractured. You don't have someone on a Galaxy-class starship, but they're on an Ambassador-class starship. But the problem is they have an Ambassador-class starship with maybe an Excelsior-class warp core. You know, they don't have the right warp coils. Their transporter doesn't always work. They've got a big giant ship, but they don't have enough energy to run the whole thing. There's the captain trying to keep the Federation ideals and Starfleet ideals together, but very much like Calhoun in Peter David's Final Frontier books. You know, it's a bit fractured. He had Shelby on an Ambassador-class starship, but the ship is always breaking down because the reason why they went to Enterprise that they said back in the day was that the 24th century had figured out a way of fixing everything. They'd know hardships to come up against. So to go forward in time, to use what we've had and to still have our nods and winks to the canon, jump forward in time, but have it a time in a harsh time, like what they've done. Where everything is not pristine, they don't have all the technology they need to fix everything. But I would have gone with things are a bit more ramshackle, and that was my idea back then. 25th century, we're trying to rebuild the Federation. It's just fractured. The Andorians and the Vulcans are fighting each other again. You know, the Bolians are doing this. The Orion Syndicate is taking over. But you've got this one ship, this one beacon of hope that's trying to fight within the Prime Directive. The captain has to make these deals now and again, tries his best to do the Prime Directive, but does the Kirk thing where, I have to bend the rules here just to get by, feed my crew. But we want the Federation back. We have a starbase that we can go back to. We have a planet we need to save. We're doing the right thing, but we're hovering in the gray area, and our ship doesn't always work the best way. But every now and again, we'll have a shower, we'll tidy ourselves up, and we'll fly to our next adventure. That was where I was hoping that they would bring Dark Trek in, because we'd had 20 years of such bright futures.
You might get it next year on Discovery.
So, but they've kind of done that with Discovery. But the ship works. It's the opposite. The ship is perfectly functional. It's got a warp drive. Not everybody's got a warp drive, you know.
That's the warp drive, and it'll be interesting, as you say, to see where various aspects of what was the Federation are at this point. I mean, what's happened with Deep Space Nine, what's going on with Bajor, what's the story with the Klingons now? Like, all of that. I did notice people, some commenting to say, "Where's the Klingons this season? There's nothing about the Klingons." And it's like, well, it doesn't always have to be about the Klingons or the Romulans.
Klingons got such negative press in season 1 and 2 with their designs.
It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure aspects of that will be explored in season 4 or whatever other seasons after that, as they reestablish the Federation and find out what's been going on since they've been sort of,
Well, I mean, the big MacGuffin for the next season is they've started mining this fractured planet full of this dilithium planet. You're going to have fractured elements of the chain. They've established the chain, these big bad guys. As you say, where are the Klingons? The Romulans have joined the Vulcans, so they're a big force because they came in to save the day at the end. But are they going to build up to a big battle for this planet? It's got, there's going to be a war for the dilithium. So they're rebuilding the Federation. They use the spore drive to refuel everybody, to reconnect. But there's going to be resistance to that. The Mercantile, the Chain, the Orion Syndicate, everyone's going to rear their ugly head. So I would expect that there's going to be a big battle over this planet at the end, which could see, the planet being possibly destroyed or something like that, And if they go forward, will they lose this source of dilithium? Did they mine enough? Can they go out and explore beyond the reaches? Are they going to go intergalactic?
I don't think they'll go that route. I think they spent the third season, searching for a way to correct the burn. Now they've found dilithium. They've got Discovery going out there delivering it. And, I think it's going to be more about reestablishing the Federation. There will be some competition, I would think, regarding the planet I'd say that may happen. But I don't think it'll go down that dark path. I think it's going to be more about re-establishing the federation, finding out what's been going on since it had reduced the size to such an extent, and what say, as I say, the Klingons or the Romulans, or the Romulans are with the Vulcans now. What's been going on? How did the Dominion, for example, see what's going on in the Alpha Quadrant and go, we'll go back in there, or did the burn extend beyond the Alpha Quadrant? We know there's a lot that they could do, so it'll be very interesting to see where they go with it. I'm really looking forward to it, so can't wait. But so we probably went on Discovery a lot longer than we intended, considering we wanted to talk about the Mandalorian as well. So, shall we move on?
Yeah, I think we should move on. I've made most of my complaints about the Michael Burnham show. The Mandalorian. I don't know about you. I have watched pretty much every piece of. I'm just looking at my shelf here. I think I either have or have watched every piece of Star Wars storyline that has been created in the last 10 years. And excuse me, like Mando season 1 is Lone Wolf and Cub. It's a Kurosawa Western mix. That's what it is. Lone Wolf and Cub was the original Japanese storyline. John Ford copied that with the Searchers. Not copied that, but copied the style. That's where it came from. Facebook user there, that's Michael J. Quigley, Lieutenant Commander, retired U.S. Naval Forces.
I haven't watched all those, to be honest, John. I've always been much more a Trek fan than a Star Wars fan, but so no, I haven't seen Clone Wars or Rebels or any of those. I've read some of the books. I did read Timothy Zahn's original.
That's
trilogy.
That's going to be especially Heir to the Empire. Anybody who's still watching has not read Timothy Zahn's original trilogy, Heir to the Empire. That book has influence on modern Star Wars television, especially with the Ahsoka Tano show that's coming. The start of her big bad starts off in Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire book. I didn't read the second. I didn't finish the third one. I finished the second one. Didn't manage to ever finish the third one. But the first one is an amazing Star Wars book. And
it was a trilogy, if I remember correctly. And I thought they were great.
It introduces Grand Admiral Thrawn. He comes in that book. And Grand Admiral Thrawn became a major character in Rebels, in Star Wars Rebels. Again, that's Marcus. Marcus saying the Mandalorian is everything the sequel trilogy wasn't. It's no wonder it's so loved by the fans. It makes you feel like a kid again. Well, there's a good reason for that. The two people who are the driving force on the Mandalorian are Jon Favreau. Happy from the Avengers or the Iron Man movies. A great director. The reason why Mandalorian's able to do what it does is his technical achievements on originally the Jungle Book and then the Lion King. The technology he helped create for that is. You'll have to expand on that little tidbit there, Michael. Jon Favreau comes from that. Then the other part of that is Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni was his major shows were Clone Wars, and the difference between season 1 of Mando and season 2 was it wasn't the same show as season 1. See, obviously season 1. I think season 1 is a great piece on its own. It's such a fantastic start to a new era of Star Wars. I felt the second half of season 2 felt less like it felt less like a Mandalorian, and actually felt more like latter seasons of Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. And And obviously it was because Bo-Katan was in it, Ahsoka Tano was in it. So basically, all the great characters that Dave Filoni had helped to create in Clone Wars and transferred up into Rebels now have come into Mandalorian. So he's taken his animated series, his animated characters, and now they're real life, and it's great. But yeah, it second half of season 2 especially, it's a continuation of the great stuff that he's established in Clone Wars and Rebels. And to say it again, there's loads of people out there who, there was the original short episodes, the 3-minute episodes of season 1 Clone Wars, and then the 9-minute episodes of season 2 Clone Wars. Then there was the disastrous Clone Wars movie that was released in the theater, which was terrible. That was actually meant to be the season 3 of Clone Wars, but somebody went, "This looks so amazing, stick it in the theaters." And you could, if you watch that movie, it was, I think the distributor was actually Warner Brothers, not Fox. And that's why it's not on Disney Plus, I don't think, because it's a Warner Brothers distribution. So but the start of these characters is in that movie. Not the start. So the start of Clone Wars is actually in Attack of the Clones, and then you go into Clone Wars season 1 and 2, which was the Samurai Jack style of animation. And then we went into CG animation, which took the Samurai Jack style and then made it 3D. And then you got the Warner Brothers distributed movie, which introduced the character of Ahsoka Tano. But as you watch that movie, it's kind of broken up into 25-minute chunks, which really shows that the movie was made out of episodes. Because they'll deal with something for 20 minutes. There was no intercutting of scenes. It was very much, we'll deal with this bit of storyline, then we jump over to this bit of storyline. So you could very much see that this was written as a series and then stuffed together to release into the movie theaters, which was a bad idea because it was very obviously a TV series. And then season 1 of Clone Wars, as it is season 1 on Disney Plus, that is actually like the 4th year of the storytelling. Well, we come to that in a second, Joanne. But so what I'm trying to explain is this is the progression of the storylines that, if you haven't watched them, you should. And even if you don't want to watch all of Clone Wars, because it is a bit of a slog, go watch the Ahsoka Tano episodes and that playlist that Disney Plus have created. It's very, very important, especially when you come into the Ahsoka Tano show that's coming.
Sorry, did you put in a particular playlist to sort of bring you into The Mandalorian?
I just saw it on Disney Plus. I was scrolling through, and it had the Ahsoka storyline as, where you have you have the suggestion episodes. There was actually one of the lines on the TV was Ahsoka Tano episodes.
Oh, okay.
It was just a playlist of her episodes. skipping over the pilot where she's introduced, and she's just like the most super annoying character. Everybody agrees. I was listening to Donald Faison, and what's this? If there's a new podcast coming out from there's a podcast out with Zach Braff and Donald Faison called Fake Doctors Real Friends for fans of Scrubs. Great, fantastic podcast if you're not listening to it. Out of that, their producer, or what's her name? Daniel is one of them, and Joelle. So Donald Faison and their producer Joelle, huge Star Wars fans, and Donald Faison, he's actually a voice in one of the animated shows as well, but he's huge Star Wars fan, and their pilot episode of their new Star Wars podcast is in Fake Doctors Real Friends. It was only released last week. Very good. Go listen to it. They talk about a lot of different things, and they have similar opinions. And one of the things that Donald said was that everyone agrees the Clone Wars movie that was released in the theaters, Ahsoka Tano, was the most annoying character. They had to save this little Hut baby, and it was really awful. But by season 3, this character started to emerge and has become, by the end of season 7 of Clone Wars, it's the only character you're really caring about. You don't care about Anakin and Obi-Wan and other characters, Ahsoka Tano is the character that you care about. And then as Rebels got better, Rebels season 1 is the kids show. You stick with it. Rebels season 2 onwards is another great show. So it's like we're establishing this so we can get the money. So we were saying that the kids are going to watch it, but then eventually once they start the ball rolling, they actually start telling stories that are great, just like JMS was doing with the real Ghostbusters back in '89. They're doing that with Clone Wars and Rebels. So I highly recommend that you go back. Even if you stick it on in the background, you'll get enough information. But Timothy Zahn created this Thrawn character, and now he's going to be the nemesis of Ahsoka in the new show, coming out at the back of Mandalorian. So there is a huge extended Star Wars universe that has always been there in books and video games and comics, that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are helping to create and expand. Like, we got the Obi-Wan series coming. That'll be great. And Ewan McGregor coming back for that.
And Hayden Christensen.
And Hayden coming back for that. So that's going to be a fantastic update to the universe. I do think after the release, Kathleen Kennedy is kind of the CEO of all the like Lucasfilm stuff. She's made some decisions in the past in regards to some stuff where I don't know what she's doing. I don't really know where she's up. She's always a smiley face promoting stuff. I don't know what she really thinks or what decisions she makes. Kathleen Kennedy, she's been there with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas for 40 years, so she's very much the one. She's the running the show. Like, I do know she was a force when I don't know, was it the Coen Brothers or who had Solo first and was fired because it was too comedic and it was made a comedy, and they went, no, this is not it. So Ron Howard was brought in to fix it. So Solo is one of those movies where it's like, is it good or is it not? It's not a terrible movie.
Not a terrible movie. It was an enjoyable movie. It's nowhere near the best movie.
But it was one of those
but it was enjoyable.
It was a rescued movie. It was a rescued movie. That's what it was.
Yeah. I mean, I know others that did enjoy it, but I really didn't like The Last Jedi. The manner in which they handled Luke's character. There's so many people there who, they grew up watching this character. I remember going to see it as a kid in the cinema, and I enjoyed Force Awakens. I thought that was a great movie. Some people said it's just a rehash of.
But they had to do that.
The way it is.
They had to do it. It was a great way to reintroduce.
They had to do. Han Solo was exactly as he should have been in that movie. It was perfect. Harrison was brilliant, and I really enjoyed the movie. And then at the very end, you come across Luke, and you go, "Can't wait for Last Jedi." After seeing that, I can't wait to see Luke's storyline. And then you get Last Jedi, and you go, "What?" I mean, what?
Ryan, interesting. If you listen to Donald Faison and Joelle's podcast about it, she's actually a fan. She's one of the few people I've ever heard talk about Rian Johnson's movie, and she's a fan of what he did. Again, I always harken back because I work in the industry. I don't begrudge anybody their job of doing and the hard decisions that are made. I do think that Last Jedi is at least 30 minutes too long.
The whole casino scene was like.
Canto Bight they tried to make it, a Cloud City thing. I mean, the excuses that Joelle uses on her podcast was it was great to actually see, the kids. There's other Force users. There's not just the Jedi. All this type of stuff. And it was, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Decisions that were made. I thought, Poe versus the Admiral. He should have been off with Finn. They should have been doing that.
Bombs in the vacuum of space.
Huh?
Bombs in the vacuum of space.
Yeah, I mean, even Brett Jones, who actually worked on that shot, mentioned that. That was one of those things where the artist went, "You sure you want? That's not how space works." And it's just like, well, just do it. This is the way we're doing the story. Like, well, okay, thank you for my paycheck, but you do realize. So, that's something that was in on the ground where they did kind of like, yeah, I'd like to point out, shh, okay. But, and the start of the movie where he's using modern parlance to be on hold on a phone, it was like, the character would talk like that, but the dialogue he was given or the way he did it was quite literally like he were on the phone, which is a 21st century 20th century thing in our world. It's not in that fantasy world. So that was something that was disjointing, especially from the get-go. I think that dialogue should have been handled a little bit better. Still do the same idea, but it just really felt like he was actually on a phone call, and it felt like it was playing far too much to as old Babylon 5 term of mundanes or Harry Potter term muggles, it really felt like that. So I think
so forced in it,
Yeah, but he should have gone off with Finn to do their adventure together because they were a great duo. Sticking him back with Leia and the Admiral, and the character of Rose. Again, don't begrudge the actress her role or her opportunity. It was well done to her. She played it as best as she could, and there was nothing wrong with her performance. I didn't like that the character was there. I think it was a character that was simply created as a sounding board for Finn to go and play with, because they wanted Finn to go and do this thing, but they needed someone for Finn to talk to so he could talk to the audience, and they created Rose, and it didn't work out so well. It shouldn't have been that. So I think Johnson did a bad thing. Didn't do great there. And then finally, the biggest fuck up, as you mentioned already, is Luke. And that's where, exactly, who's Marcus. So they, I enjoyed it much better than the other two. I love that the mystery box set up in the first movie literally got fucked over the shoulder along with Luke's helmet. Joanne, you're in a minority, which is interesting. It is a valid opinion. There are people who
people who like that, who love that movie.
I have it. I don't know. Oh, actually, it's on a different shelf. But I have it. I don't know if I've taken it out of the cellophane yet. I think I've seen it.
I bought it as well, but I bought it in CEX. I didn't want to buy it new. I bought it secondhand. Yeah. So, but going back to the Mandalorian, having seen what they did with Luke in Last Jedi, the Mandalorian in a few minutes, makes up for it all.
Oh, exactly. Oh. So that, and again, unfortunately for me, another asshole on Instagram spoiled that for me. I said it to, I said it on my own stream there on the Maker chat that, somebody posted a picture of a hooded character coming out of a turbo lift. And all I had to do was look at the lightsaber hilt, and I was like, "Oh, that's Luke's hilt." And then he goes, and the hilt was engaged in the photo, so it was his hilt with a green saber, a green blade, and I was like, "Oh, so Luke Skywalker's the big surprise at the end of the show." And I was only 3 episodes in, because I was doing that, trying to watch it in blocks. I love to sit down instead of watching it for 40 minutes or an hour. I like to watch it for 2 or 3 hours in an evening and really enjoy it. And only reason I stop watching is because I'm too tired to do the next one, or it's I've watched a bunch. But and it was one person on the other side of the Atlantic wanting to promote their own stream about it, and the most iconic shot of the episode is that reveal, and of course that's the image that they have to use, that they use as a grab for those of us surfing the internet, and it's a dick move. Anybody who does that, I understand it from a marketing point of view, but it's a dick move.
Yeah. It was like as someone said, a brilliant Star Wars moment.
That's Michael, yeah.
I mean, I seen a great meme somewhere which had the sequence from Rogue One, the image of Vader at the end of the corridor, and then underneath that was the image of Luke coming from the turbo lift.
Yeah.
So there's one above the other, and the caption is don't find yourself in a corridor with a Skywalker.
Yeah, right.
It was like,
but obviously, we'll complain about Ryan.
Who said that? That was Michael. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's it, Michael. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, okay, we're complaining about Rian Johnson's movie. I didn't like it. Some people did. He ruined the character of Luke. Even Mark Hamill wasn't happy with it. So much backlash from the fans. He handled it badly, I think. And even, he defended himself. It was like, well, it's my movie and I made my movie my way. And it was like, okay, but you're also dealing with 40 years of fans, and your movie wouldn't be successful if there wasn't a fan base out there in the first place. So there's that argument to be had as well against Johnson and his.
The result of that, it was one of the reasons that Solo didn't do as well as it should have done. In the cinema, there was a backlash. Yeah,
right. Yeah, there was a backlash, but I have to say, when you watch Solo at home as a home movie, or if you even just watch, I like to buy my movies in 3D when I can. But if you watch it on Disney Plus or something like that, it's actually a very enjoyable movie as a home movie. Like it's just not that big, giant scale Avengers Endgame scale that you're used to seeing in the cinema these days. But it's an enjoyable movie to sit at home and watch, on the Blu-ray or on Disney Plus. So yeah, Solo's actually successful in that respect. But to kind of cross over between what we were saying about what has to happen before other decisions are made, like we did that with Discovery and Enterprise. It's the same thing. So Rian Johnson had to annoy the crap out of most of us fans for Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to put in that Luke Skywalker scene in the last moments of the end of season 2 Mandalorian. They were obviously going, what was the coolest fucking Star Wars thing to happen in the last 5 years? Vader coming down the corridor in Rogue One. The moments before A New Hope happens, Vader walking down the corridor, just lightsaber going everywhere, force choking, throwing people, the guy sticking his hand through. What is the most amazing thing? That. Right, well, we got to do that for Luke Skywalker. This is our influence. We're doing this. This will redeem the character of Luke Skywalker for the fans, because Dave Filoni is one of us. Like, if you go to a bar, you'll see Dave Filoni with his hat on, and you see the way he sits and stuff like that. He's very much a socially awkward fan himself, and he's Firefox to him. He's gotten to one of the best positions ever. He's a fan that can write his own fanfic that is becoming canon. And he's got fantastic people around him, and he started out on an animated series that they didn't think was going to go very far, and created something fantastic with his team, and now they brought him in on to Mando, and that's why I feel that, again, as I said earlier, that's why Mando season 2 is it feels, once they started getting away from the Grogu storyline and introducing Bo-Katan and all these new things, and the Darksaber storyline. That Darksaber storyline comes from Clone Wars. That's a whole storyline of a season of Clone Wars. The whole Darksaber thing. So that's why it feels like Mando season 2 is actually just a continuation of Clone Wars and Rebels. It's that big long storyline.
Well, thankfully for those who haven't seen those, you're not missing out. Well, you can flesh it out by watching those, and I like the idea that Disney have kind of put in suggestions there, as where if you want to see her storyline or whatever storyline, they're putting it in there. Yeah. But you're not going to, you're not losing anything watching The Mandalorian by not having seen those, because not having seen those, I still really, really enjoyed season 2 of The Mandalorian. I mean, I loved season 1. I loved the Western, almost spaghetti Western feel to it. Mm-hmm. With season 2, I loved the first episode with the Marshal. I mean, Timothy Olyphant is one of my favorite actors from Deadwood and Justified. To see him play a Marshal was just fantastic in that first episode. I really hope he comes back to it. Like, I was sorry to see him lose the armor. I was hoping that Amanda would let him keep it. Right. But obviously it was Boba Fett's armor. And
and there's another show that they have to.
Exactly. Yeah. But what did you think? Like, I mean, I loved the whole show, and the Luke reveal was brilliant. I've seen some people complain about the CGI de-aging
Yeah.
of Luke. Somebody mentioned deep fake, and they put up an image of both. I honestly
Okay.
didn't see a difference between the two.
Well, I did. I can see the difference. Obviously, I used to, another one of my previous jobs was quality control engineer, so I can spot these differences. If I can spot that the Discovery nacelle wasn't damaged when it should have been, I can spot differences in lighting for Luke's face. Yeah, the CG that they used for Luke, they've improved it definitely from Rogue One and the Princess Leia. They did. I think they did a fantastic job with Tarkin in Rogue One. But what you got to remember is it's deep fake, and what they're doing is two different technologies. So, and I'm sure someone who works in CG like Brett Jones or something would explain it a lot better. And I haven't seen exactly what they're doing, but I can only guess. So when they're creating a face replacement, they will generally make the head in a wireframe, and then that wireframe will be flattened, and then in Photoshop in 2D they'll get Mark Hamill's face and try and flatten it out onto this thing and then wrap it back into the CG, right? So, and then that face is lit by null lighting sources. So a null lighting source is, there'd be a lighting source here, and this point in the computer will emit light, but you won't see it as an origin of light, right? So those are null objects. So, and they try and replicate the same type of lighting that's in the shot, right? But the skin, the skin of the CG character, they have to guess at the spectacularization. They doesn't have. I mean, the best renders in the last 20 years for doing this, and the only reason they got it right was because they created a whole piece of technology for the artist to paint a creature as if it was a real sculpture, and that was when they made Gollum for Lord of the Rings, and the artist who created him spray painted him into the layers as he would if he was creating a real sculpture. So they were able to give him the technology to actually put a spray gun in his hand so he could spray it as he would his real movements, instead of having an animator in Photoshop, get their stylus, on their tablet and try and do it this way. They had his little gun, and it would activate, and he would do his layering that way. And he had the time, obviously, to do it for Lord of the Rings, to create an amazing, and they won awards for it because it was so fantastic. Now, obviously, that's a movie with giant budgets. They're still doing Mando on a really low TV budget. So they're trying to push these CG things through on a low TV budget. Now, so they had to do that, and I'm guessing they did it in 3D, layered the 2D image of Mark Hamill's face from 20 years ago on top of that wireframe, and then relit that photo into. I would expect Tarkin will come into something somewhere, because you'll have Rogue One and stuff. But they lit that in the computer, and also the actor. I noticed that it was very smooth around his jawline and stuff like that. So you could actually see like the CG line was very much plonk here, and that could do with the fact that, well, CG hair, as much as they can do okay, it still looks fake. Your eye can tell with hair, because hair is so imperfect, even if it's combed immaculately. It's so imperfect that if you have CG hair, it's still very perfect. So the face line was very much a mask like that, and not a full head. So you could kind of see the kind of blending in at the jawline here. When you go into deep fake, the problem with deep fake is a proprietary program. We looked at it for doing our previs for Valhalla, and when we looked at it, to send you actually have to. You don't get the rendering software. You have to send your video image and your data to their server. Their server will do it and send it back to you. You can't do it locally. So that's the difference with deep fake. So when someone does it on deep fake, they're taking real photos and different angles of Mark Hamill's face, placing it into this face recognition software to place it on top of that face that's there, but they're sending it to the deep fake server. So Lucasfilm can't do that. Lucasfilm can't go to their proprietary thing, and they're not going to hire deep fake either, because it would give deep fake a huge, like, they'd start getting stakes on the stock exchange or something if Lucasfilm would have to buy them, and then if Lucasfilm bought them, nobody else would be able to use them. But deep fake, nobody is going to use deep fake because it's you have to send the images away. So then you're sending your images to someone who's not signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. But the images that they're using, the guys that do put deepfake in, they're already pre-lit real images from film already. So it's not a relit CG face or a relit 2D image on a CG face. That's already pre-lit and placed two-dimensionally composited on top of that face. And it's brightness contrast, two-dimensional compositing as the face moves that they try and get. Corridor Digital, if you look them up on YouTube, they do some Tom Cruise stuff, and they've redone the Scorpion King from The Mummy 2 with The Rock. Oh, yeah. That was abysmal. And then that was something I saw somebody say recently, is like, so people today are going, oh, that's terrible CG. Well, myself and yourself, Frank, we remember going to see The Mummy 2 in the cinema, and that was the forefront of facial recreation in cinema. So, we've seen the progression. So what they've done, and even since Rogue One, what they've done with the facial progression from Peter Cushing, it wasn't great with Princess Leia at the end. I mean, I think they should have stayed at the back of her head and not come around the front. I mean, I think that was the only shot in Rogue One where I was like, nah, you shouldn't have gone there. You should literally have had the actress, put her hand out, take the pad or the data disc, and just look out the window, go into hyperspace and cut it and let you go watch A New Hope. When they came around on her face, it's like, here's the reveal of Princess. No, you didn't need it. That shot was unnecessary. I think they could have cut that out of Rogue One. I think it was the only bad shot in Rogue One I didn't like, besides them fucking about with the wings on the U-wing not being in the right orientation when they're going.
Interestingly, in Rise of the Skywalker, I think they did a better job of young Leia's face in that sequence there where she's training with Luke.
Well, obviously they've learned more of the technology.
They've improved. That there's the progression that you're talking about.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I felt like with The Mandalorian, it looked great. Like, obviously, yes, you can see and you can take that it's not real, but you're more than happy to just let that go by you. For what you've seen. I mean, you mentioned Corridor. That sequence with Luke as he tears through the what were they, the Dark Trooper.
Yeah, that was another thing. What was it? Sorry, somebody just said here.
His face should have been reflected in the window. That was Michael.
Yeah, actually, Michael. Sorry, go back to that one. Yeah, Michael, you're dead right. They could have had the CG face look better. Jesus, Joanne.
But what I was going to say there was with the. Yeah, I agree with Marcus there. I
actually prefer CG Luke. I think we go down.
Of Sebastian Stan, because he seems to look quite a lot like a young Mark Hamill. So that would be interesting. But that sequence,
I'm going forward to keep that.
Because earlier in the episode, you'd seen Mando struggle to defeat one Dark Trooper.
Yeah,
he was in the end, but he really struggled. And then Luke arrives and he just tears through them. It gave you a sense of just how much of a Jedi Master he had become at this stage.
Well, but it also gave you the scale of, here's a Jedi, at the height of his powers, And Luke isn't actually, Luke, he's not even a proper Jedi. He's not at the level of Yoda, Mace Windu, or Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. He's not even at that level. So, but here's how powerful Jedi are, and they re-established how powerful he was. Looking at this, there was one thing as I was watching it, especially when they introduced the Dark Troopers as droids, and I was wondering why are the Cylons in Star Wars? Why do we have blood and chrome Cylons in Star Wars? What's going on here? And it was
for them to go exterminate or not. what did the Cybermen use?
Well, yeah. You will be. Well, they assimilate you. What was it? But yeah, why are the But I really was looking at why are the Cylons in Star Wars, and then I realized, it was a build-up for the last scene. You couldn't have Luke Skywalker kill actual troopers, even if they were clone troopers. You couldn't have Luke Skywalker kill people. So to have him do this whole thing, it had to be droids. Otherwise, it would change the character too much. Nobody did. Nobody like this. Unfortunately, there was one moment in Mando season 2 where they didn't mention midichlorians, but they did in a holo from the Doctor with the big glasses. He did reference the M count of Grogu's blood, and I was like, lads. So they did reference the midichlorians as the M count in Grogu's blood. And I was like, just I thought better of you for this moment. I thought better of you for this moment. Well, you don't even, they said, we get away with not saying the midichlorians. No, everyone knows what you mean with the M count. Take that, that's gone. We all complained about that for 20 years. Don't bring it back. Yeah. So, I really got. I was like, no, why did you do that? Another thing that they mentioned on the other podcast with Joel and Donald Faison was Bill Burr's character, and again, I agree with what they said. And if you listen to that podcast, they said the first episode when he does the rescue of the Twi'leks in the first season, it was a bit of an episode. It was like it was Mag 7, but not the Mag 2 or the Mag 4 or whatever. It wasn't on the same tone as the rest of the show. And maybe they were pushing stuff. They were testing it. What's it going to be like when if we go forward in season 2, when we have a bigger range of characters, how are we going to deal with it? So I thought, that was maybe there was an experimental episode to see if we can deal with it. It didn't quite work out well. Bill Burr wasn't great. Apparently, he wasn't too happy about doing it. He didn't like Star Wars. But when he came back, the reason to hunt for Grogu, who says that, Mike? Well, Mike, I would disagree on that particular point because he's still, if he is so strong with the Force, you don't have to mention midichlorians. You can still talk about, we want to get a blood sample because how is he so strong? And still never, ever, ever mention the midichlorians, so they could still be on the hunt for him for his powerfulness of his attunement to the Force. But just don't mention the M word. But Bill Burr came back, and some people are lauding that. His episode where he talks about, he sees he was a trooper, and he's an ex-stormtrooper. And they bring in the old fan argument.
He was shot for a stormtrooper, even an ex-stormtrooper.
He was, and that's why he survived. But he did bring up, in the tank as they're driving up the road, they did manage to stick in that fan discussion of, do you know how many people were on the Death Star when it blew up? There were over 1 million people on that starbase. So, a ragtag fleet of rebels, they came in and murdered murdered 1 million people. So he voiced that other side of it that a lot of people have been arguing since the movie came out. It was like, oh my God, how many people were on the Death Star? How many people were on the Death Star 2? Which is actually a factor sized bigger than Death Star 1, even though it's not finished. But they brought in that fan argument and had Bill Burr put it in, as part of his character. So that was a nice piece to explore. Here's another character who used to wear a helmet and was forced to wear a helmet. So now he doesn't want to anymore. That's not what he wanted. That's not who he was. He was forced to do it. So so his storyline is quite similar to Finn. So there are other characters like Finn out there. We just haven't explored them. We've been stuck on the Skywalker storyline for that. Imperial sympathizers in here. Well, Imperial sympathizers. There's the 501st fan group. Are they not Imperial sympathizers? I never understood that. Like, everyone, all these people love going dressed up as stormtroopers. So like, you do realize you're dressing up as space Nazis. Why? I always want to be the good guy. I always want to be. I never want to be the bad guy. Even I finished Star Wars Squadrons recently, and again, Star Wars Squadrons, so in story terms. I played it in VR. I enjoyed that element of it, but they've also brought in Harrison Dula from Star Wars Rebels, which was pretty cool. So Squadrons has taken characters that Filoni has created and brought it into their storyline. The shuttle pilot used the Death Star destruction as justification for Alderaan, but Alderaan was destroyed before the Death Star. What?
Yeah, that's when, if I remember correctly, is when they captured when they were heading towards the planet there with the can't remember now. Yeah, do you remember they took a shuttle so they could land on the Star Cruiser.
Yeah. And
they grabbed the guy in the cockpit, and one of the guys there said,
"Oh yeah, yeah,
that's what he's referring to there."
I think as far as I remember now, I've only watched the episodes once. As far as I remember, I think they were referencing Senator Bail Organa more than the planet. I'd have to go and listen to that one again. I thought it was funny where, when they do get an American actor who can almost do a British accent, they get them to do a British accent. Because that was the thing about, bad guys back in the 70s and the 60s. British people always played the bad guys. It was an American trope because obviously the bad guys were always British in American history from the Civil War or from the Revolution onwards. So British actors generally played Nazis. And that's why when they shot Star Wars, and they shot it in England, obviously, all the Imperials have British accents because it was shot in England, obviously. But it was also a reference to the fact that the Nazis were more often than not played by British people in movie history. So what about Irish history? Just what's that reference to there, Mike? Sorry, it's we skip over things. We talk about things so quickly. We just need some reference there. But what about yourself?
I think it was more just a differentiating the accents there. They use, say, British actors to play either the bad guys, or the Romans or whatever, and the Americans play, say, the plebeians or whatever. Like when you look at a show like Rome or whatever, it was just the way that American movie making went.
It's true.
But yeah, so I totally enjoyed the whole season. I felt it kind of sort of fizzled out a little bit after the first episode. I thought it got a little bit weak, and then it really picked back up again. But overall, it was a very strong show. Yeah, I mean, The Mandalorian is taking Star Wars in a much better direction.
What do you think of Gina Carano? What's her last name? What do you think of her character? Character.
Which character was she now? She's the female wrestler, is it?
Yeah, she was MMA.
Yeah, the character was okay. I mean, I didn't really gravitate towards her character at all. Like, I'd much rather see the Marshal back again. I really enjoyed his character. Her character, yeah, I could take or leave. I'm really hoping we see more of Bo-Katan.
Katie Sackhoff. Yeah,
really enjoyed the whole Mandalorian storyline there.
I'm not sure, guys. Those of you who are still watching us, did Katie Sakoff voice Bo-Katan in the animated series? I can't remember. Let us know in the comments there. Sorry, go ahead.
Not sure. But yeah, so I'm wondering, season 3, are they going to deal with the fact that Mando is now pretty much king, isn't he, of Mandalore? Because he possesses the dark side.
Because
So are they going to portray some sort of conflict now between him and Bo-Katan?
Well, they've explored that storyline already. They really went deep into that in Clone Wars, in the later seasons of Clone Wars. There's a whole big thing about Bo-Katan, the dark saber, how it was used, how Mandalore fared in the Clone Wars, how it stood apart from both the Separatists and the Alliance. And the Republic. So yeah, there's a whole. If you want to go, she did. Thank you, Andy Rannigan. Katie Sackhoff did voice Bo-Katan. So delighted for Katie to be brought into the live action version of the show and getting a live action version of her character. Fantastic for that. Because her character is great in the series. So it'll be nice to see her. And that's the other thing. I think it might be great that Bo-Katan has been introduced in Mando, and she could obviously come back to Mando, but I think they're going to bring Katie she'll go into the Ahsoka Tano show, because obviously Ahsoka and Bo were friends in Clone Wars and Rebels, so the dark saber storyline, if it doesn't stay in Mando, will go into the Ahsoka storyline, because she was very close to Ahsoka. So they'll go into that show, So, and then if they're doing a Ben Kenobi show, it depends on when they're setting the Ben Kenobi show, whether it'll cross over. Because Ewan McGregor's doing it, I have heard rumored that it was one stage being looked at to shoot in Northern Ireland, but that may be off the cards now, because I know a certain role-playing game is set to do a long run up in Northern Ireland now, so they may move out of that area since they've lost the opportunity for the studios. But that's an unknown element. I don't know. I'm not up there. And of course, after Brexit, it'd be highly unlikely that I'll ever get work up there. So, but yeah, those are the rumors that at one stage, Kenobi could have been shot up the north. Because I know George Lucas was in during the last season of Game of Thrones checking the place out. So Katie Sackhoff hasn't aged. Well, if you go back and watch the miniseries in 2003, you can see she's a little bit baby-faced in Battlestar Galactica miniseries in 2003. You can see, but yeah, no, she's been very lucky in regards to how she's aged. But who said that though?
I really enjoyed her other show.
Marcus, what a terrible thing. Well, I don't know if it's a good thing. It's a compliment, but also it's not great to be commenting on a lady's age, an actress's age. It's so hard for a lot of actresses to act beyond the age of 30, because a lot of people, a lot of agents and casting directors and stuff like that say, "Oh, your looks are gone," so they don't continue. So, it's great that she has. It's a good compliment. But also, it's also a touchy subject, because a lot of actresses get stuck and lose their careers sometimes, unless they're the greats, unless they're the dames like Judi Dench or Maggie Smith, or that type of thing,
With Katie, she's great. She brings it past our Galactica. I quite enjoyed her other show on Netflix there, Another Life. Oh,
I thought it was terrible. Sorry.
You think it was terrible?
Oh,
yeah. I don't know why I enjoyed it. I definitely think it had some weaknesses, but
sorry, go on.
Potential there, and I'm looking forward to the second season.
Like I said a couple hours ago, I will watch shows. I'll give them a go and check them out when they're sci-fi, and that is a show where I went, this is a pile of sorry, just on Katie Sackhoff's, other career opportunities, and I don't begrudge her a show and Another Life and the crew, and I wouldn't say stop making it. It just, I was not going to continue watching it. it was one of those things where they'd set it in a certain time period where, you know, space is still dangerous, it's still expensive to send stuff into orbit. She has to get a crew to go do a mission to save the Earth, you know. So that's your baseline storyline. Who did the psych reviews for these people? Who let these people on a spaceship? You know, I understand that when you're creating a show, you have to have antagonists, people not getting on. You need to have this type of thing. But oh my God, we just wanted to slap every crew member in another life. I mean, the engineer and her problems, and this other guy you didn't trust, and then the first officer. It was Covenant. It was Aliens Covenant all over again, except worse. No, I couldn't continue with that show. Katie was fine. It was the rest of the characters, and it wasn't the actors. It was the way they were written. It was just me going. It's my suspension of disbelief wasn't given enough. It didn't get enough. The show didn't give itself enough credence for me to allow myself to believe that these people would be allowed to leave the planet in a ship to go save something. I was like, stick them all out the airlock and let Katie do it on her own. Even if it's a show like Moon, where, you know, where he's on the thing on his own, she has to go and do it, and just hardships, and it's just her and the hologram or the droid or the AI or whatever it was. The rest of them, stick them out in an airlock. They drove me up the wall. So because they caused me so much kind of viewer anxiety of, oh my God, you're annoying the fuck out of me, I gave up on that show very, very quickly. And I'm sorry to say that, because I hate to say no to sci-fi and to someone like Katie Sackhoff. I remember years ago when we were going to the Battlestar Galactica events way back in the day in the noughties, being at an event with Jamie Bamber, and he did say when Katie started on Battlestar Galactica in 2003, she came up from the States, from a very Republican family, and all their news came from Fox. And she was, flying the stars and stripes like it's, this is the way it is. And the family were this and that and the other. And they're very Republican in their views. And there's Jamie Bamber, a British guy from Bristol. And they're both working in Vancouver. And they had this conversation because they work so closely together. And Jamie said to her, have you watched another station to see what they're saying? She said, no, we just watch Fox News. That's where it is. And he went, well, did you watch CNN or MSNBC or NBC News or ABC to see what someone else is saying? And she was like, no, why would I? And he just went, okay, well, here's how the rest of the world is seeing it. Here's how it's being portrayed on the BBC. I can't remember what was happening in 2003. I think it was a lot of things to do with Obama. And in fairness to Katie, and Jamie Bamber said this about her, in fairness to her, she kind of sat down with him, did what he said, and went, what the fuck is he on about? Why is this? No, hang on a second. No, I'm going to prove him wrong by doing what he says and watching these other things. Oh, it was the Iraq War. Yeah, Mike. Michael, you were there. Holy shit. But she came back to him, and Jamie Bamber was singing her praises because she came back to him and went, oh my God, I didn't realize that the rest of the world saw us like that. And she's like, yeah, there are, there we go. 2003 was George W. Bush's invasion of Iraq. So yeah, Michael, you say 2 or 3 tours out there in the U.S. Navy. Without going into the Iraq War and invasion and Tony Blair and all that, but she did take Jamie's advice. She looked at what the rest of the world was saying, how it was being portrayed, and how other people saw it, especially in Canada. Other countries that had signed up to the alliance for the invasion, but how it was being portrayed by other people. And she started to change her tune and started to rethink. But of course, you got to remember, she was in her early 20s. She'd gotten this amazing show straight off the bat, and was coming out of America, Star Spangled Banner over her shoulder or whatever. And but she'd only ever saw one portrayal of the source material. And 18 years later, America hasn't really changed that much, unfortunately, in certain regions. So that's not to go into the politics of that, but as an actor, as a person, that's a great thing for someone to have done. So yeah, so big shout out to her for being able to grow up in that. But it took an American from that location to travel to another country to kind of see another perspective. So, and I think a lot of Americans could do with that. I think I was listening to a podcast. I listened to Bill Nye, the science guy. He has a podcast, and Science Rules. It's a great podcast, but he did posit a question to Mayim Bialik in the latest episode about a lot of things that are going on and opening up people's eyes. And he said, he was asking about like a national service, but not a national military service, but a national service. And people would volunteer for a year after school and they'd go repair roads and do these type of things. I would think there's a lot of America where, having the ability to leave and experience the rest of the world would be great for a lot of Americans, What's this? I remember cheering Oliver Stone when I was 17, watching his congressional testimony over Iran-Contra when I grew up. I realized he was a hero. That's Michael Quigley, Lieutenant Commander Quigley, talking about that.
Hey, John, we're at 10 o'clock. We're past 10 o'clock. So
holy shit.
We're a bit longer than we intended. So I think we should wrap it up at this stage. So final thoughts then on, we'll say, The Mandalorian at this point. And
well, I'm Oliver North, not Oliver Stone. It's a bit different. Correction. There's a correction there from Michael. Going forward. It's exciting that there's so much content coming. With Ahsoka, a whole list of stuff. I mean, it's like the Marvel stuff. They see money making opportunity with the way they're doing the Marvel stuff, going here, there, and everywhere, opening up all these what have we got in the basement of the comic books? Now they're going into the Star Wars open realm, all the books and stuff that was there for 30 years. Nobody mined. Now they're mining it.
I don't think we were talking for so long.
There you go, Marcus. That's how much energy myself and Frank have when we get to talk about stuff like this. Social distancing as well. We don't see people, so just like fake doctors, real friends. When Zach and Donald get together, they just because they haven't seen each other for so long. It's just gotta talk. One that I have looked forward to, the extended content that's coming out that I've looked forward to for so long, and this will play into my love of flight sim and the Puka. Rogue Squadron is something that's coming out, and I hope that they keep. I can't remember the actor's name, but the original Wedge Antilles. I hope they keep they bring that actor back. And they don't recast him, but Wedge and the Rogue Squadron, there's been books written on those guys and their activities during the war after, from the time of Return of the Jedi. That's when Rogue Squadron was really a thing, and afterwards, I think was there a video game at some stage with Rogue Squadron? Anyway, I'm looking forward to Rogue Squadron. All I ever wanted to be when I was a kid was a starfighter pilot. Not a fighter pilot, not in the real life, not in real wars. I wanted to be in either a Viper in Galactica or an X-Wing in Star Wars universe. So that's one I'm looking forward to. Ahsoka is another one I'm looking forward to. The other extended universe, I think there's far too much going on. It's a bit of an overload. But Mando Season 3, I think is going to be fun. But I think Mando Season 3... Mando Season 3 is go. I think, judging by the second half of Season 2, with way Filoni has taken it, I think we're going to see it a lot more akin to a live-action version of Clone Wars and Rebels. That seems to be the feeling I'm getting out of it now. It will be, I think, Mando. I would guess, only a guess. I would guess Mando's going to be, your arc storyline. and they're going to do something with Mando and his family. That the new people that he's got with him that they picked up. Dennis Lawson, yes, Dennis Lawson. I hope Dennis comes back, Craig. I hope they do bring him back in or use him somehow to be part of Rogue Squadron. But I think the Book of Boba Fett, because it's called the Book of Boba Fett, I'm guessing that they might do like short 2 to 3 episode contained stories. It won't be so much episodic, but they might do like contained chapters.
Season 4.
Hey?
Like Enterprise Season 4.
Yeah, exactly. Like you get 2 or 3 part episodes.
Story arcs.
Yeah, so that'll be the Book of Boba Fett. So a chapter will be like 3 episodes, and then they'll do another story. And it'll have progression because you get to know the characters. But I would see it jumping. So you won't have like episode 3 and then suddenly episode 4, unless they go for the comic book style where they like leave a little trail of something, and then we're going to deal with this for 3 episodes. I wonder if they'll do the overarch 12 episodes thing, or will they do like, here's 3 episodes, here's 2 episodes, short stories with Boba Fett. Because don't forget that the actor himself is quite old.
Yeah.
So that'll be the Book of Boba Fett. Yeah. So there's so much
Thanks, Andy.
content. So much content coming up.
Yeah. Absolutely. We as sci-fi fans, we really have an awful lot to look forward to. I mean,
too much.
There's so much, I mean, I mentioned at the beginning, but and you have been, the way you were building up your episodes of Discovery and Mandalorian. I've done the same for The Expanse. I haven't watched any of The Expanse yet. I've decided to wait.
I stopped in season 2 and I went, no, I have to.
Oh, no, but I'm up to date. I haven't seen, I'm just talking about season 5. So,
wow.
I decided to finish Discovery and Mandalorian, and now that Discovery is finished, I think there are about 6 episodes in now on The Expanse, so I may start watching.
The thing is, people aren't so likely to spoil The Expanse on Instagram and Facebook as they are Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah, because they're not as aware, but The Expanse is such an incredible piece of sci-fi. If you haven't started watching it, I highly recommend it. Yeah, I agree, Kip. There's never too much sci-fi.
Good show. What we said myself and Robbie when I did the 20th Brigade's stream the other day was in reference to the Puka. What did I call it? The Puka Initiative for the Kukulkan. The Puka Initiative, which is our new flight crew. When somebody was asking how Elite Dangerous flies, and I was like, well, if you knock off the computer-assisted flying, it's like flying in The Expanse.
Yeah,
as Frank will attest to.
Absolutely.
Turn it back on.
Yes. Yeah, I know you did a chat with Robbie on the Brigade page on that, so we'll have to bring that onto the Kukulkan as well, and get you to do a rundown on what you've done with that. The idea of the flight share, the Puka, where you are with it,
Yeah.
So we ran on a little bit longer than expected here, so we'll do that on another evening. Yeah. Here's a little taster there for you.
If you haven't seen it already. Oh, hang on. Hold it properly, John. There we go. So there you go. If you haven't seen it already, yay.
So that's a whole new thing we'll be offering when we get back to the likes of DCC and our own parties and all of that, Are you able to spin your camera around for a quick look at the chair before we go, just to give them an idea?
No, unfortunately, not.
Okay.
Fortunately, if you give me 60 seconds, I can do something else.
Give me 60 seconds, right? And while he's doing that, while he's doing that, I'll just say this to everybody who stayed on and are enjoying this later or earlier. Thanks very much for coming along and joining us for this examination of Discovery and the Mandalorian. Interestingly, I know Discovery can be divisive, but I think it's great to have so much sci-fi out there. I can remember when we were starved of it for so long. So I'm very much looking forward to season 4. It's great that it's in production. Mandalorian, can't wait to see season 3. I really enjoyed season 2. As I said earlier, I hope we do see more of the Marshal, but that's just because I'm a Timothy Oliphant fan. And all the other stuff that's coming up. You mentioned Marvel, very soon now we're going to have WandaVision.
WandaVision in a couple of days.
I can't wait to see that. You know, just so much good stuff out there right now.
Yeah, again, that's another thing that's going to be spoiled the fuck on the socials, which is right insane.
When it comes on, switch them off. Stay off the Facebook and Twitter, and I don't go on Instagram that much anyway, so I don't know how much you get. Yeah, I totally agree. Still my absolute favorite.
What's that? Sorry, I'm trying to connect up the phone. Oh, it can't beat B5. No, only Star Trek Deep Space Nine could beat B5.
There's a whole discussion there.
Come on. Let me see here. Yeah. Let me see if it's gonna. Oh.
WandaVision does look interesting. I mean, the one I was looking forward to most was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But having seen the trailers for WandaVision, that looks intriguing.
Okay, hang on. Don't click that just yet. It's also cause a bit of feedback. So hang on. Let me see here. Okay. Nope.
Andrew is playing Elite Dangerous right now, apparently.
Who is?
Andrew
Runnigan. Where are you in space, Andrew? I haven't actually logged into Elite Dangerous other than to play the what you call it?
Who's that? Michael.
Let's see here. Okay. Save and turn it on. Come on. There we go. Okay, let's see here.
Absolutely, Joanne. More than welcome. We put up some hammocks in the nacelles. We're already running out of space.
Okay. Frank, you can if you.
Yeah.
So you can. Oh, turn that off. That'll help. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So if you haven't seen it already, here is the chair that I've been working on. It's not finished, obviously. It's winter. It's a big monster. So, yeah. And for those of you who haven't seen it, that is the reupholstered donor chair that Frank gave me that started the whole ball of wax. And the idea was a flight simulator chair, so you didn't have to continually pull out the joystick and throttle. So I use the X52 joystick and throttle system. The HOTAS means hands-on. Was it throttle? Or I can't remember what HOTAS stands for, but the H stands for hands-on. So it's the X52. For this one, I'm currently using the Oculus Rift, and I've built it in such a way that you can hook the Oculus on, and that's where it lives when you sit in it. The chair has been decorated in a Klingon style. So I put some Klingon bits and pieces on it. There's graphics to go in here. Haven't gotten around to those yet. It does swivel. This is something that I'm going to investigate. Apparently, there's a program you can get on the web where you can program your own buttons. So that's an old Android tablet that I have that is Velcroed in. The wire will be able to solve this USB into the arm, into the gubbins, and comes out the back. So that may end up being an actual visual button system. I don't know. Then over here is very much the same on the other side. When you're using it in VR, you have to use these. The quickest and easiest use of less space was this hook. Doesn't look great, but it's functional. A false vent, Klingon decorations. So this is the chair, and this is the idea. This is what we're going to bring to Comic-Con in the future. For other flight simulator stuff, especially for people with long legs, I do have pedals, but we won't be using them in the game. That's for me playing other flight simulations. And then you have a little footstool for people when they're lazy. But yeah, this is what we're going for with Elite Dangerous. It's going to be our flight simulation software that we're going to use to do practical exams for the Puka. All right, I'll knock that off, Frank.
Cool.
Oh. Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Grand, cool. So there you go. There's a quick look of the chair if you hadn't seen it before.
Yeah, very much looking forward to seeing that in action at Dublin Comic Con and our parties. Having sat in the chair and docked the ship and blasted an asteroid and tried to pick up the shards and doing all that kind of stuff and passed my first couple of flight exams. It's great fun. I need to go back and work on the combat sequences again, but I think people are going to have a whole lot of fun with that. And the whole, I know you can play both 2D, but sticking on the headset, sitting in the chair, you actually feel like you're sitting in a cockpit. You're watching the ships fly by, and it's going to be a great addition to our events. I'm really looking forward to seeing it in conjunction with the bridge that we've already done. It's great to see just having so much to offer. So I can't wait. Obviously, unfortunately, there won't be one in March, but
maybe August.
Dublin Comic Con in August.
We also, we're also working on cosplay elements as well.
Yeah,
we're also working on cosplay elements.
We are. That's your flight jacket, and you've got a flight suit as well.
We've also got the flight suit that we're working on, and we're trying to make things affordable. That goes there, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're looking at the cost of these things.
You've got a Cullen patch on one arm, and you've got the looks great there.
Yeah, this is the perfect color for this system. So who designed this? Barry Gavin, was it?
Barry Gavin, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice work from Barry Gavin. So the Puka. So obviously this is this is the original Cucullin patch, and we love this one. But for the Puka, we're going to adopt this one for our cosplay, for our flight suits and stuff like that. This is the Star Trek Beyond shoulder patch. Going to adopt that for the Starfleet element. This is something that will have to be made bespoke for people. And then Morgan Dean and the team, the research team, have been working on. We created this one. We have other ones, but this is the first one, and this is a physical reality for them. So that's the first one to come out. And the thing is, and as I said before with Robbie, and when we first announced it a while ago, you won't be able, this particular one, you won't be able to buy this. So you'll have to earn this. We're not going to charge. I'm not going to charge you for these, but you do have to pass the exams in the chair to, or internationally, you'll have to pass a video review of the exams to attain one of these. So the first person to have received his, because he has passed his class 2 flying rating, is Frank. So Frank does have one of these. Congratulations, Frank. Frank is also our guinea pig for the documents that I've written up. So Frank is when we're out of lockdown, Frank is the one who's helping me figure out if something I've written is too ridiculous in regards how much time it takes. There's a lot of balance to do with that. I mean, we'll go into it in another stage, another podcast. In regards to how much time can one person take up in the chair at Comic-Con or a party before it's like, no, you've been sitting in the chair for ages. I was quite the one thing I was quite delighted to see was when Frank, are we planning a space program of sorts, Marcus, of sorts. So yeah, we're planning. It's a space program of sorts. We'll have to do a podcast really of the plans, which are still plans. I didn't really want to announce it, but it's lockdown came, and but lockdown has helped both start and delay it at the same time. So yeah, I was kind of hoping to roll out the chair and the ideas all at one time at a real life event, but that's not really happening. So so we're going to have to I think it'll be a lot more of an anticipation, and I just hope that the anticipation we're building is not going to be a disappointment for some people when they actually sit in and do it. I hope we build it up in the right level. Ireland needs a space program. Just an answer to that, Michael. Ireland does have a space program. We are connected to the European Space Agency, and parts for the Ariane 5 rocket are actually made here in a factory in Dublin, and also parts for the computer systems for the Ariane 5 rockets are made here in Ireland, somewhere down in Cork, I think. Someone could correct me on that. But yes, we are part of the ESA. So, Steve McGarry, VR isn't your thing. Well, for the chair, it will be VR. If you want to do it at home in 2D, that's you can do that. Yes, the chair, and I'm also hoping even though it's a delay in time, right now my VR rig runs off a big, huge tower computer that is huge that I've had for like 5 years. I'm hoping that gaming PCs with the same amount of power will become more affordable as this 2021 goes on. So then my plan is hopefully that a laptop will be able to be attached to the back of the chair, and that's where the flight instructor will sit during your exam while you sit and put the VR head rig on. The whole point of the chair is it's in VR with HOTAS, so that there is not a computer monitor attached and have to be attached to it. It's all up here as if you're in there and you're flying. If you're worried about, I know we need to go, but if you're worried about nausea and VR and stuff like that, the difference between a standing game or an ambulation game, like say Skyrim VR versus Skyrim VR versus, which is an ambulation or teleportation game where you're standing. Cockpit games do not feel the same because you have a horizon line, you're in a cockpit, the world is moving outside, and psychologically, strange things, they've researched this, where it doesn't affect you in the same way as having no helmet lines right in front of your face. So sitting in a cockpit doesn't give you nausea. I played recently on the Oculus Quest. I played and finished Myst, and playing that a couple of hours a night, yes, I did make myself nauseous, and I did have to not use VR for a week or two after I finished Myst because I was using normal motion in the game, which fucks with your inner ear. Whereas when you're sitting in a cockpit and you're sitting and you're only moving this much, you don't get the same type of nausea because your body knows that you're sitting still and it's the vehicle that's moving. It's an interesting discussion to have in regards to VR. So just if that's part of your thing with saying VR is not your thing, Steve, but there are some people that have adverse reactions to that type of light, things that close to your eyes. You know, if you're epileptic or you have that type of predilection, then you know it's not for you. It's actually unsafe for you to use it. So yeah, you have to think of those consequences too as well. So you know, I'm never going to force someone to get into it, especially if they have like preconceived conditions. Yes, Michael. Sorry, yes, the European Space Agency, but not making the parts for the rockets. Yes, we are part of the European Space Agency, the ESA. It's a small contribution. I wish it was more. We have Nora Patton is one of our space ambassadors here in Ireland. She's actually signed our chair. She has a book out and stuff like that, kids' book, and she would dearly love to be an astronaut and the first Irish astronaut. We wish Nora all the best in her endeavors to become that. But yes, you know, them's with the big paychecks or them's with the big checkbooks get to go into space. Them's with the tiny little islands in the North Atlantic get to do our best. So yes, we do our best but we do contribute to the ESA. But yeah, we don't have a big enough bank account to be giving enough to get anybody into space, like the JAXA program, the any of the manned space, the Roscosmos and all that. Michael, you know more about that, but yeah, unfortunately, the ESA don't have a manned space program. It's something that we're not doing, but we do have a satellite. We do manned satellites and that type of stuff. So we do have Irish people who travel over to France and to French Guiana, which is our launch site in South America. So yeah, we do have a foot in the door.
That's cool.
I have sent an Irish tricolor patch getting ready to orbit the Earth for 6 months. Wow. You have to tell us more about that, Michael. Perhaps in the future, if lockdown continues, when Perseverance lands on Mars with its little drone, which is going to happen on February 13th, I think, we should do something about that. We should have Michael and Robbie, and maybe we should, if lockdown continues, we might do a cast about that.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to call it
to people.
Yeah, I'm going to call it, guys. We've been, what's it now, 10:30, so we've gone on a lot longer than expected. But thank you, everyone who, I know. So thank you, everyone who came along and joined us and commented and stuck it out or joined us later. It was great. We'll see you again
later.
I think we should definitely do another one soon with more detail on the Puka. There seems to be quite a bit of interest there. So we'll do a little more on that. But so to everyone on board the USS Cuchulainn who joined us tonight, thank you very, very much. And we'll see you again on Exo Chat real soon.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
On.